across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good morning to you, my friends. Just gone 6 o'clock. It's Tuesday, the 2nd of December. You lucky people, welcome along. And you're waking up to, well, a collection of news stories that, however much we try to move them away from the liar that is Reeves and for the man who has no backbone, Starmer, it just keeps coming back to him. More pressure on those two dullards this morning as the head, I don't know if you read this, the head of the Office of Budget Responsibility. He quit yesterday. This is a man who allegedly was responsible for the budget being leaked 45 minutes before, in fact, Madam stood up and denounced it. Yesterday, Keir Starmer, I don't know if you saw him, he went on and on about, we didn't lie, it was all fine, it's everybody else's fault bar me, I don't know what's going on. We shouldn't have left the European Union. Brexit seemed to be phoned into everything he was saying. The question this morning is, seriously, how the hell can Reeves and Starmer survive? Not that you probably want them to, but how can they, with any conscience, survive? We head towards Christmas. It's a time of year where, you know, goodwill to all men and all women. Do you feel any goodwill to Starmer and Reeves? I think not. The other ludicrous story that, yes, rolls over from yesterday. David Lammy, a man who, at best would be described as over-promoted, although I think the wig and tights went a bit far, today goes further and says that courts cannot continue to cling on to jury trials for the sake of tradition, right? That's what he said, OK? The truth of the matter is we had a leading KC on yesterday saying that actually being judged by your peers, 12 men and women randomly selected, is the way that you safeguard against judges who are perhaps a little bit biased. But Lammy, one of those people who never listens to anybody, ploughing on needlessly. And we're going to find a clip because my morning paper reviewer, who was anonymous right now, has just told me that back in 2020, David Lammy, I get a quote here, said that keeping jury trials was really, really important. So he's on the ringer as well. And this will get you going. Two stories. The alarm clock brigade, I love you. We all get up, we set our alarms, we go to work, we pay our taxes. Junior doctors, peeps, yes, those people who got a 28.9% over 3 years pay rise when the Labour Party came to power, are going to walk out again, tactically, from the 17th to the 22nd of December, demanding another 26% pay rise. It's true, isn't it? They're trying to wreck your Christmas. All I hear is bleating stories about junior doctors who work long hours and don't get enough money. I would say simply this. There's millions of people who work their backsides off in this country who don't perhaps, or haven't indeed, they're not in the public sector, they haven't had a pay rise since time began, but they'll keep grafting. I think genuinely that the BMA and the people that represent the junior doctors are politically motivated. I think it is as disgusting a story as you could find this morning. Junior doctors, 5-day walkout over Christmas. What happens if you're ill? You're stuffed. And if that didn't get you going, how about this? God, Bridget Phillips in the Education Secretary, another nut job. There are calls this morning for a 4-day week at school to ease teacher burnout. I know, don't. The 17 weeks holiday is not enough. Campaigners have urged the ministers to allow schools in England and Wales to pilot a 4-day working week because this will help with recruitment problems and retention rates. So we're back at it again, the alarm clock brigade. Yeah, you Brits, I'm talking to you. You're up, you're about to go to work. The teachers want to do four days only. The doctors don't want to bloody work at all. Lammy doesn't want you involved in the legal process so we can get rid of that backlog. And still your Prime Minister and Chancellor Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer are at the helm. What an appalling thought. Actually, we've got it. David Lammy, when he wasn't wearing a wig and a pair of tights, the man who today is going to say, and I quote, we shouldn't have jury trials. This was him in 2020.
The jury system is fundamental to our constitutional arrangement. We should not use the coronavirus as a cover to abandon juries, which is the opportunity to be judged by 12 of your peers. Juries being replaced by judges and magistrates is effectively the establishment. rather than your peers who live in your community deciding what justice should be.
And without getting ahead of myself on a dark, dank Tuesday morning, therein lies the truth, ladies and gentlemen. The Labour Party, who pontificate about working people and growth and doing right thing. He's now the establishment in his wig and his tights, and he doesn't care for his values. What do you make of all of this? We're loving the fact there's so much to talk about this morning. 0344 499 1000. We love the voice notes. Keep them coming. We'll take your text 87222. Start your message with the word talk, and we say a very good morning to a man who has more titles than the Duke of wherever. Matt Vickers, Shadow Home Office Minister, Conservative MP for Stockton West. Matty boy, how are you?
Good morning. All good, all good. Loving the 5am. Early, beautiful.
He said to me, this is brilliant, you said, I think this would be easier in the summer. No. In the summer, it's light when you go to bed. The darkness is good. Great to have you here. Where do you want to start? We've got to start with Reeves and Starmer. Yesterday, the head of the OBR, was it Richard Hughes? I don't know. Anyway, he's gone.
I think we're losing... the story's getting a little bit lost, because there's kind of two reasons. You could say it's because of that dodgy leak of information half an hour before she died. But the real reason, because didn't Rachel Reeves say she had full confidence in him?
Yeah.
And then as soon as he called her out, her out for lying, for knowing that this imaginary black hole she's been parading around didn't exist. All of a sudden, he's gone. You don't need to dust off your lie detector to tell.
Wow.
The woman is talking absolute poop.
Absolute poop. If you're just tuning in, that's Matt Vickers. I'm fascinated. You were in the Commons when she delivered that speech, and I said yesterday, and I'll say it again, I thought Kemi Badenoch's best performance by far. She looks to me, mate, out of her depth, out of ideas. They're linked so badly that whatever happens, if she goes, he goes, they look like dead people walking to me. And I'm not just saying that to be political or to generate interest. I look at it. There's a picture of her on the front of the Mail this morning. I mean, she looks at complete odds. Tories accused Chancellor of using the OBR chief who exposed truth about a financial black hole as a human shield. So they're saying... from the Daily Mail that, this has got Labour's fingerprints all over it. You
get these dodgy CVs and you should always check the references. And when he got her dodgy CV full of lies in, he should have checked the references before he put this woman in charge of our economy. It would be laughable if it didn't have such real consequence, if it wasn't people's jobs on the line, if it wasn't people paying ever more into record levels in tax to prop up people on benefits who are getting £16 billion bung to people on benefits, paid for by all those poor people now who are driving to work in the dark, in the cold, to do a day's graft, to cough up yet more money for that woman who's taxing anything that moves. But isn't it fair to say that has always been the Labour mantra? If you look back in time, it is all about we'll promise too much to too many people, and when we get there and we look at the books, the only way we are going to balance in any way is to tax people that have just achieved anything. They need to rebrand the welfare party. They are the welfare party. They're on the side of people who can't be bothered to go to work. And the problem is somebody has to pick up the tab for that. More people out of work, more people to pay for, being given ever more taxpayers' cash, while all these idiots are going to work.
It's interesting. Bill from Romsey. Good morning, JK and Matt. Do you think that Reeves actually wants to resign? That's how she looks to me, but Starmer won't let her because he will have to go, or there will have to be a reshuffle. They are linked, aren't they?
Well, I think she arrived at the place. She had no idea what she was doing. That's why we've ended up in this mess. All of a sudden, if you tax anybody who creates a job to death, they stop creating jobs. The end result is young people not getting their foot on the employment ladder. Yeah. It's people who worked and grafted their socks off. And I actually think there's a hell of a lot more unravelling to do from this budget. I was speaking to a pub landlord who emailed me. He is fuming. His business rates have gone up basically 3 times. They're now 3 times as high because the day this budget came out, they revalued all the business rates on all these properties. His business rates on his little pub that he's struggling to make ends meet with have gone up. They've trebled. That is insane. How the hell is he going to make that work? That's going to mean less people with jobs. That's going to mean less people who've grafted their backsides off to put into businesses down the pan. It is devastating.
My local, that's a really good point, actually. The guy that runs the local dry cleaning company has been there 15 years. He closed. I saw him the other day. I said, why is that? He said, my electricity bill, my energy bills have gone from £1,000 to £8,000 a year. I can't sustain it, Jez, anymore. And I genuinely can't do it. They came to power and they talked about growth. They've screwed small businesses, medium-sized businesses, this workers' charter. I mean, I'm with you. I don't know where this... And this is your fault. This is your party's fault, because I cannot believe these people have been allowed to get. I know that's me being a we're friends, but the truth is, not you, but so many people in the Tory party, their incompetence and the fact they didn't do what they said. I remember thinking Boris Johnson's going to be there for 10 years. It's going to be great, and it's the seismic, mess that was made. This lot are absolutely, and it must be interesting for you guys now, because for 15 months all they've ever said is the mess that's been left. This is right on them now. This is Neil Jezza, this government couldn't lie straight in a bed. What a complete joke. Tony Gannon, morning mate. Jez, Reeves and Starmer I genuinely think should face prosecution for treason against the British people. Adam, good morning. The Alarm Brigade Brit, Adam in Chester. Following on from yesterday, Jez, does anyone in the media analyse the actual spend versus the budget to see where the overspends are? We know categorically we can't trust Labour, so it'll be that they haven't budgeted or there's something we don't know about. I suspect a lot of it is migrant spend, which then makes the fiscal headroom a nonsense, as they know they're spending it on things they don't want to admit. Either way, whatever Adam and other people think, the truth of the matter is confidence in these two, in this government, is... It's at wreck. I mean, you lot were unpopular, but I'd love to actually take a thing. Wouldn't it be lovely to have a dial as to the last few dying days of the Tory administration under Sunak, who was right about the tax, by the way.
He was. He said if it moves, you'll tax it. Your pension, your job, you can't. And he was right. But even he didn't foresee the taxi tax and the milkshake tax and everything else.
The latte tax.
It's insane. But actually, he was right. And if you look at the state of our economy then, fastest growing economy in the G7, near record level, people could actually get a job.
Does it annoy you? This is man to man as a friend. Does it annoy you that through your own stupidity, and when I say yours, I'm talking about the Tory parties, the change of leadership, the lack of doing what you said, does it absolutely frustrate the bits off you that this has been allowed to happen, and actually any of the good stuff that the Tories did, like business-wise, like education, is being steamrolled? It
frustrates me more the fact that we saw it coming. This is the tale as old as time. Every time the Labour Party gets at the wheel of our economy, everybody gets put out of work. Every time they enter government, more people are made unemployed by the time they leave. It's just the way it goes. They tax anybody who tries to work hard, do the right thing, earn a living, and they give it to anybody who can't be bothered.
This is on the hoof, Alarm Clock Brigade. 6:15 on a Tuesday morning, dark and dank, and I'm sat here thinking, can Reeves and can Starmer survive? And then I'm thinking, it's December the 2nd, Christmas. You know, Matt, when you have to buy a Christmas present for somebody that you don't like, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, as a bit of fun, there's no prize, I haven't got any budget. I have actually. There might be a prize. 87222. What would you buy Starmer and Reeves? Okay, not that you would want to, but if you had to buy a Christmas present, what it's called, that where you have to sit around the table or whatever. Two hideous sort of relatives that you've got to buy a little something for. What I would love some suggestions. What would you buy Starmer and Reeves? 87222. What would you buy Keir Starmer?
Starmer, it would have to be a backbone. The man is a spineless, terrible disaster as a Prime Minister. We've seen all these... Well, I mean, there's a corruption minister this morning who's been... It's just one thing after the other. The guy lacks the bottle to sack that woman. And in terms of Rachel Reeves, we'd sign her up to one of these job agencies so she could go and find something she's qualified to do.
I think she should be paid an accountancy course. And I think he should be given 3 months at Relate. Just saying. I could be wrong. I mean, I'm sure his marriage is absolutely fine. 87222, start your message with the word talk. The other one, Lammy, we talked about it earlier. David Lammy. I'd love to hear the Tories' view on this. He says today, we cannot cling on to jury trials for the sake of tradition. You might have seen the clip 10 minutes ago. This is completely at odds with what he said 5 years ago, which is that 12 people, and I'm going to call them normal people, your peers, are a safety net, aren't they? And it's not just tradition. They are a safety net against a judge who might have a political stance or a viewpoint. It's always been that way. Today, David Lammy is, in all intents and purposes, going to say, we can clear this 80,000 court backlog by getting rid of juries. What's the Tories' view on this and yours?
It's absolutely... Well, I agree with the David Lammy of 2020 when it said it's a fundamental part of our democratic settlement. It is. It's forever and a day it's been the case. It adds democracy. And actually, when you see more and more of these activist judges coming out with more and more of these ridiculous things, whether it be these migrants who they fail to remove, whatever it might be, you see these activist judges. This is the democratic element of it. It's real people casting judgment on some of the most horrific things that have gone on. It's the right thing to do. He has no mandate to do this. It was nowhere featured in his manifesto. In fact, he was saying the opposite, and now has turned up and done it. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But I'm still struggling to find anything that they said before the election that they're still saying. Everything they said before the election has changed, whether it be what they said to the pensioners, whether it's what they said to the farmers, whether it's what they said about our justice system, whether it's about not taxing working people anymore. There's nothing this government said to get into power that's held up when they arrived.
Do you think they know that they're in massive trouble, that the British people have stopped listening, that they're out of their depth, that they're liars, that nothing happens that they said was going to? Do you think there's any acknowledgement inside Number 10 that this is real? This is massive.
The problem is, when you've got somebody like that at the helm of this country, you require democracy to kick off. You require their backbench MPs to grow spine and have done with them and get rid of them. It's just not the case. These turkeys aren't going to vote for Christmas. They know they've got to hang on to that Prime Minister and that Chancellor in order to keep their jobs, and they're not willing to do anything about it.
So,
he is destroying this country.
Main two stories to start. Can Reeves and Starmer survive? Yesterday, you waking up to use the OBR, the man that was in charge of the organisation that basically called her a liar and proved there wasn't a black hole, there was plenty of money. He's out the door. Starmer supports her. Nobody believes them. So I thought, for a bit of fun, if you had to buy... You know those relatives you loathe? I mean, my parents are dead, so I won't be buying anybody anything except for the kids. But you know those relatives you loathe? What would you buy Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves for Christmas? 87222. What are your thoughts on David Lammy, who 5 years ago said, juries, they are a tradition and they should stay? Today is going to say, no, we're going to get rid of them, as he prances around in his wig. Good morning, Ben in Camberley. Hi. Jez, I'd buy Rachel Thieves a balaclava and an abacus. That's very good. Oh, good. Glenn in Leeds. I'd buy Rachel Reeves a bleeding lettuce. Jez, I love the show, says Emma Holden. I don't know where you are. She's just a quick one on the 4-day school week. Oh, yeah, if you've just woken up, there's rumours that Labour would like there to be a 4-day week for school teachers because they're all burnt out. You bet you're going to love that this morning. As a secondary school teacher in my early 20s, we're knackered. A 4-day week would mean better teaching from more caught up and organised teachers who aren't rushed off their feet and overwhelmed. It's not teachers slacking, it would benefit pupils too. OK, Emma, both sides of the coin. I get that. I'm sure it's very, very stressful. You do get 17 weeks holiday. I'm not disrespecting you. That's the teacher's view. What's yours, peeps? 87222. Hello to Darren in Congersbury. I hope I've said that right. Jez, how can you buy someone that Lord Ali has already got everything for? Any sort of Christmas present. Woo! Mark, morning, Jez. 4-day week, it will be a shock when they have to work 5 days a week. Oh, wait, no, they won't be able to do that because they'll be too bleeding anxious to work. I love the people on this show. 87222. Add to the mix that junior doctors are going to strike in December for 5 days. What a lovely morning. Morning, James.
Good morning, JK. Now, if Starmer caves in and gives these junior doctors another pay rise, I'm done with working. That's me done. I feel like an absolute mug. What an absolute joke. And a 4-day working week, is he having a laugh? What planet do these people live on, Jeremy? Planet Zog. Absolutely unbelievable.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. 6:23 on a dark Tuesday morning. JK on Morning Glory. You're welcome. This is where the nation comes to talk. The alarm clock Brits, you and me, kidders. Thanks for tuning in this morning. 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Loads of serious stuff. Matt Vickers is here. Of course, we're talking about Starmer and we're talking about Reeves and how can they possibly cling on with all the lives. Cling on, that reminds me of a joke that I can't do at this time in the morning. But, of course, the thing that I threw out there was, if you had to buy them, you know those relatives that you have and you don't really want to buy them a present. If you had to buy Reeves and Starmer something, what would you buy them? You lot have gone mad for it. Elaine, I'd buy both of them some laxatives, Jez, so they can see their bleeding careers go down the toilets. Morning, Paul. JK, for Christmas, Starmer needs a Windows update, so he stops spouting 70s socialist word salad and Reeves some new glasses so she can see where the decimal point's supposed to go. Vicky's in a rainy Bournemouth. Morning, Vic. Is that my wife? Morning, Jez. No. She wouldn't call me that. I'd buy Starmer a one-way ticket to Gaza and he can take Blair with him. Brilliant. Morning, Jez. I'd buy those two bloody idiots a big mirror so they can both have a good look at themselves in it says Rich in Dudley. Do you know the most famous resident of Dudley? Letty Henry, another one who doesn't understand where anything is. Morning, Jez, says Shaz. I'd buy Rachel from accounts a calculator and make him a bleeding dinghy so that he could use that instead of flying everywhere and creating a massive problem. Mark Bennett, what? I would buy a calculator for her first and a prosthetic spine for him. Mark's in Long Eaton, which is exactly what you said. We talked Lammy. We've talked Reeves and Starmer. Let's just bring it back to Reeves and Starmer because you can't get away from it. There were rumblings yesterday and over the weekend, Matty, that his own cabinet were now briefing to the Times saying, you lied to us as well. This is him yesterday. Watch the face, listen to the croaky voice. This is our Prime Minister saying, I did not mislead anyone.
There was no misleading. And I simply don't accept, and I was receiving the numbers, that being told that the OBR productivity review means you've got £16 billion less than you would otherwise have had, shows that you've got an easy starting point. Yes, of course, all the other figures have to be taken into account, but we started the process with significantly less than we would otherwise have had.
So he said, we did not mislead anyone, including the Cabinet. And then Rachel Reeves said this, ladies and gentlemen.
You would never expect a Prime Minister and a Chancellor to go through all the detailed numbers. The Cabinet are briefed on the morning of the budget, on the budget numbers. Of course, we go through things that affect individual government departments, but the whole information of the budget is not supposed to be provided until the Chancellor delivers the budget. Obviously, this time it was leaked early, but not by the Treasury.
So you're just shaking your head like me. It's just unbelievable.
She started with the lie. I think you wouldn't expect the Prime Minister and the Chancellor to go through the details. She didn't go through any detail by the looks of this car crash. But then the big thing he said yesterday was the fact that there will be no U-turn. They're going to keep giving away these benefits in ever-increasing number. And, you know, if you're working, you're just a fool, really, because you're just paying for an ever-increasing number of people to be out of work, paid an ever-increasing pot of cash. It's not sustainable. We can't afford this.
Your voice notes are always welcome. We want to hear from you this morning. 0344 499 1000. Can they possibly survive? You're waking up to the news that David Lammy, the Deputy Prime Minister and Justice Secretary, has decided that the best way to deal with a court backlog is to get rid of juries, although 5 years ago he said that they should never be got rid of. What's really got you going as well is junior doctors. Let's move on to junior doctors. Page 4 of the Telegraph this morning, Matty. I'd really like to talk about this because this is one of those stories that sends people through. And I hear people will ring and they'll say, yes, but the thing is junior doctors work long hours and they don't get a lot of money and it's all a bit of a nightmare. Junior doctors plan 5-day walkout from, I think, the 17th to the 22nd of December. They patently, right, have no respect for, I believe, their the patients. But they had 26%, despite this alleged
29%, 28.9%, and they're asking for another 26%. It's insane. I mean, have you ever had a 28.9% pay rise?
No.
And what would you do if you got one? You might say thank you rather than going on strike for another 26%. But it's nuts. It's nuts. But those people now driving to work, they're paying for this. They're paying for this. And these guys, having had their 28.9, were another 26%. Where do they think it comes from?
I think that's the interesting thing, because I remember when Wes Streeting came and became the new health secretary, and he said, I'll sort out the junior doctors. The Tories refused to even sit round a table. We're giving them this. And even he must now be thinking, but hold on, that was 12 months ago, and now you're back. This is the classic story, isn't it, of the public sector.
That's what unions do. If you start waving cash around at unions, then more unions join the band. If you see someone down the road getting a 28.9% pay rise, then you want a 28%, and all these unions just go crackers. They don't care where the money comes from. They don't care that those people out there having to pay ever more in tax to sustain it. It's nuts. And now we're talking about this 4-day week with teachers. It's insane. It is insane. Those people now who got up, their alarm went off at 7 a.m, are paying for this.
So junior doctors, the strike, I think it will be perfectly acceptable to say you're going to kill people. You've done it deliberately at Christmas, a really hard time of year, and you are abusing your position. If you agree or disagree, quite happy to hear from you. If you're a junior doctor, ring me. I want to hear your stories. But all I ever see is sort of what I would call extreme politically left-based junior doctors represented by the BMA spouting about this, that and the other. My mother-in-law brought up, nannied for a couple of kids. One of them's a junior doctor. She really, really struggles and is getting to a point where she doesn't think it's worth it. She doesn't agree with strike action. It's not in her DNA at all.
The answer is we ban prison guards, we ban police officers, we ban soldiers from striking. Kemi, the woman with the backbone, the woman with the spine, the woman of the hour has said we should ban it, and we should. And actually, Labour just went completely the opposite way. Not only
ban doctors
striking.
Because the army are banned, the police are banned.
These strikes cost people their lives. Those people now waiting in the queue are now in an ever longer queue, and they might not make it because of these strikes. It's just not acceptable. But since Labour came to power, they started throwing money around like there was no tomorrow, and got all these unions in fever pitch, you know, they're foaming at the mouth now. And then beyond that, they took away all this minimum service legislation that we put in, which required unions to organise in a way that meant they could keep the operating theatres going, meant they kept some sort of sustainable service. But it's insane. They got rid of that as well.
I think it's a really interesting point about whether it should be made illegal. That will alienate people, I'm sure, who feel that doctors do a great job. But I just, in my head, you're so right. You're too young, but if you go back to the late 70s, before Thatcher came to power, every single union was asking for 30%, and if they didn't, they went on strike. They were rubbish in the streets, green goddesses they were called, taking people to hospital because the ambulance lot had gone on strike. And in the end, the Labour Party realised that the country was skint. You're dead right. We were always brought up to believe that you spend what you can afford. This government just... And in the old days, they printed money, right? That's what they did.
We're back there, aren't we? We're back there. The bags of rubbish are piling up in the streets of Birmingham. And now the guys who've been paid, the agency workers who've been brought in to clear them, they're on strike as well. They probably want another 30%.
You're getting ahead of yourself. This entire country is on its backside. So Reeves and Starmer, can they survive? Probably not. But just for a bit of fun, what would you buy them? What would you... Those relatives that you literally loathe, but you've got to buy something. Morning to Maggie. Oh, no. Right, let's say hello to Emma. Morning, Em.
Morning, Jeremy. I'll tell you exactly what I'd buy them both for Christmas. I'd give them a one-way ticket to the far corners of some place on Earth, never to return.
Brilliant. There you go. She sums it up. They're not popular at all. Morning to Alan Kay. I don't know what that means. Christmas present for Starmer, the Communist Manifesto with large text, and for Reeves, a child's Fisher-Price calculator. Get them couple of out. Good. Morning, Jez. The teachers also gave teacher training days. Oh, they also get teacher training days on top of the 17 weeks holiday. Just so happens these training days fall on Black Friday or Cyber Monday. The brass neck on them. 4-day weeks for teachers. Junior doctors going on strike, and I am an alarm clock Brit doing my thing. This is what annoys people. Graham, morning, mate. Starmer and Reeves, two of your Jezza stem cells, so they can each grow a new brain with common sense. Graham in Welling's very nice. Morning to Maggie in London. Morning, guys. So there's talk of a 4-day week for teachers. So what happens to the working parents of these kids on a 4-day week? There you go. Very interesting. Jeffrey. Don't know why I've done that. Morning, Jeff. Jez, I would buy Starmer and Reeves a lie detector machine and wire it up to the national grid so that they'd have to tell the truth. Yes. We asked you, Keir, have you lied to the British people? You said no. You were lying, weren't you? No, I can't get back there. It's just been... Right, JK, morning, Phil in Coventry. Morning, Phil. Christmas present for Keir Highwoman Starlin and Robert Reeves. Simple. Tickets to the Tower of London with a special daily tour to the dungeon or the stocks. Have a great day. Jackie with a K. Morning, Jez. I give those two liars a one-way ticket to the moon and do this country a bloody favour. Yorkshire's cold this morning. Dave, hello. Jez. Teachers wanting a 4-day week. So who picks up the bill for childcare when the parents are working? Dave and Cole, let's pick that up because that is a really important point, because what we're hearing from is people who are working the whole time.
Well, there's constantly... Anybody who wants to work now is faced with an obstacle of one sort or another. And unless you work in the public sector, although those guys were going to work as well, the only people who can get these, you get twats done, your Tuesday, Wednesdays and Thursdays. And the only people who can do that...
Can I just say, this is a government... Christian's gone, but it's true. And literally, that is what those people call it.
Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays. The only way that you can afford to do that is if you work in the public sector. People out there working in the private sector do not get those opportunities. No. They're just... Unless you work for the council, unless you work for the civil service, you've got to do very, very well to get that out of the private sector. It's just not a thing. Although, do you know what? I do have a bit of sympathy, because did you see the other story this morning about Glasgow? 1 in 3 kids in schools in Glasgow, English is not their first language. You go to work to become a teacher, you train up as a teacher, you think you're going to get to teach kids maths, and you end up being some sort of like UN interpreter because you've got to learn 30 different languages in order to teach 30 kids. I mean, these kids, the big challenge for teachers.
I understand that teachers will say that's very harsh, but I do think in this moment and at this time you have to look at what Starmer talked about, working people, normal everyday men and women out there grafting. And when they hear junior doctors wanting nigh on 30%, when they hear, teachers wanting a 4-day week, when they see their politicians lying, when they realise that migrants are coming into this country and being treated in every way better than they are, when they are paying their stamp and they are doing everything they should and they are living within the confines of the law, I think that's where you have a real issue. And I go back weeks and weeks, Christian and I remembered this moment, a guy sent a text going, I'm telling you what's happening in this country right now. The silent majority, right, have woken up and realised that their voice can be heard. I'm not making anything from that other than to say that British politicians need to stop taking the British people for granted, because the British people have had enough. And Matt, you'd understand that, right?
Somebody's got all of these things come with a cost. And it's the guy in the street who works hard every day, who's picking up the tab. It can't go on. People are at record levels of tax. There's no reason that we had to put taxes up again. Well, in fact, it was evidence. There was no black hole. It's a fact. It didn't exist. It was a myth. But we're going to pick up the tab for that because she wants to please her backbenchers and pay out more in benefits to the people who aren't going to work.
Can they survive? Reeves and Starmer. What would you buy them for Christmas? The relatives you really hate. Kate Height, no, I have this writing on the Wirral. It's posh there on the Wirral. She says, easy, a P45, get them out. Nick in Loughborough, I'd buy Reeves a Tricon, out a face mask, a black horse and a flintlock pistol. Brilliant. Jez, Lammy, Lammy, he knows that jury trials predate Parliament. It's part of England's heritage. It's not tradition. That suggests it's like rolling a cheese wheel down a hill. This is just how globalist these idiots really are, and they're tearing my country apart. Morning to Scott. He says, I'm 52 years of age and have seen parties come into government and decimate our great once country. It's really easy to see welfare Britain for welfare illegal migrants that are invading our country and changing the demographic. For what purpose, Jez? Why? A proud nation tied into European laws with a human rights law and a questionable accountant taking orders from above to destroy this great country by design and stick two fingers up to the British public whilst doing so. They are incompetent for insulting mine and British people's intelligence. No wonder we're getting the hell out of this country. That message from Scott is exactly what's happening. Anybody with aspiration, anybody who honestly looks and thinks, what's fair about this? Why would you hang around, Matt Vickers? You wouldn't, would you?
You see the cash splashed and you are picking up the tab for all these ridiculous schemes, for all these giveaways that they're giving. You know, the two-child cap. It was brought in because you saw these ridiculous cases. There's a figure somewhere that's come out this morning about a family has to be earning £71,000 in order to not be better off on benefits now as a result of removing that cap. Like, at what point, in what universe is it right that a family that doesn't go to work takes home more than a family of people who are out grafted?
It's just not acceptable.
That can Otherwise, why do we bother going to work?
But how bad is that a message? Love to hear from you this morning, Alarm Clock Brits. We're loving the interaction. 87222. Start your message with the word talk. You might want to talk about junior doctors. They're going on strike again. Teachers, they want a 4-day week. Lammy, he wants to end jury service. And Reeves and Starmer, what would you buy him for Christmas? 22 minutes to 7 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Back in 3 on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, my friends. Welcome to Tuesday, the 2nd of December. JK on Talks, where the nation comes to speak. Alarm Clock Brits, you know who you are. Thank you for tuning in today. Whatever you want to talk about, 0344 499 1000 is our telephone number. You could text 87222. You might want to talk about Reeves and Starmer. A bit of fun, we said. You know those relatives you don't want to buy a Christmas present for and you have to. What would you buy those to? I'm going to be very careful how I do this, but this is, without any shadow of a doubt, going to be the text of the morning. Hello, Anna. Happy Christmas. I would buy Reeves and Starmer a certain sex aid, complete with long-range explosive detention. Sit back and wait for the biggest bang you could possibly have this Yuletide season. I'm just going to leave that for you. I think it's utterly brilliant. I'm a retired police officer. This is Basil. Where did that come from, Basil? He says, I'm a retired police officer who was not allowed to strike, and I think anyone who is paid from the public purse should not be allowed to strike, and that should include doctors and teachers and bin men. Tony, what do you make of the junior doctors' strike proposed?
Morning, Jazzy. Tony from Stoke-on-Trent, mate. I was up at 3 o'clock this morning to come to work, same as I do every other day. I had a letter yesterday saying that I was having a 2.3% pay rise next year. So these doctors going on strike after having a 28% pay rise, and they want another 26% pay rise. Basically just taking the wee-wee.
Taking the wee-wee. It's true, isn't it? It's absolutely the truth there. Junior doctors, you know, 28%, they want more. Teachers, a 4-day week. Hard-working Brits, sod ya.
I do find, I think people who go into being a doctor, you assume that they're going in because they want to make people better, they want to contribute, they want to serve people, they want to... And actually, you're striking, you're putting people's lives at risk. When these doctors go on strike, it means Mrs. Jones doesn't get a hip done. It means these have real-life consequences and it should be banned.
So what I found really interesting about this story last year when they were given that money was that they talked about over a series of years, and I take that, right? I don't want us to ever take advantage of somebody who does a job vocationally because they care, but you're never able to justify to me how nurses got 5%, by the way, and junior doctors got 28.9%. My real issue with these junior doctors is this. Not only do I think the BMA is a warped, left-wing, ideologically based union that has its own initiatives and doesn't really care about people it represents, and that might be something people agree or disagree with. But I see these junior doctors wanting more and more, and odds are I never hear from any of them saying my working conditions are rubbish. I hear plenty of them talking about money, and then when we've trained them and they've gone on strike, they disappear privately. If I was in charge, I'd tell you exactly what I'd do, right? I'd give them a reasonable wage and I'd make them sign a bloody contract that and dentist, when they've been qualified at my expense, you are staying in the National Health Service for 10 years. It's how you run a business. It's value for money. The public sector is out of control. And you're dead right. There's nobody this morning listening to this who's got 28% last year and is going to ask for the same this year. That just doesn't happen.
We would probably be saying thank you if we got 28% rather than going back out on the strike. I think you're right. Nurses out there working 5%. All the hours that God sends. How does that stack up? How can anybody think it is acceptable that one is getting 28.9 and coming back for another 26? That's like more than 50%. It's insane. Where do they think this money comes from? Is it grow on trees?
I love the fact we're talking about junior doctors going on strike. We're talking about teachers wanting a 4-day week. David, I'm a complete liar lammy wanting to get rid of juries. But you lovely people, are most interested in that little thing I threw out, which was, what would you buy? Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. You know those relatives you have to get a Christmas present for. D from Manchester. Why did I do that? Rachel Reeves, President, a book called Economics for Bleeding Dummies. Alison, I love this. I'd give Starmer and Reeves a new life in the country where they can hang out with their great mate, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Yeah, he's about as popular as them, isn't he, to be fair? It's a race to the bottom, says Mr B, despairing from Woodchurch. 4-day week for teachers. Rachel Thies will then want to secure more money to look after children for that day. Then it'll be 3 days. We need these bloody people out now. Hello to Terry. A day week. What? A 4-day week for teachers. What next? Working from home. That's true, isn't it? I mean, you can see that happening, can't you? Nice. Bourbon Leeds. Buy them a week in a 4-star hotel so they can spend it with all their migrant mates. That'd be great, wouldn't it? That'd be good. That'd be fantastic. Morning, Stephen.
I would buy Starmer a personality.
Is that it? I would, sorry, listen to the cookiest one ever. I'd buy Starmer a personality. What's he like up close and
personal?
The
nasal knight. Well, the bit that I don't quite get.
Nasal knight.
He's. I don't really know him particularly well, but then again, his own backbenchers don't. Not really. He's a bit aloof. But then his own backbenchers, his own MPs don't seem to know him. There's been a few of them sort of. Oh, we don't really see him. We don't really know.
So this is what he's done with the Labour Party. We don't really see him at all. He's all up north. Do you remember
last? Speaking in a much more civilised manner than.
Do you remember last year when he turned on the Christmas lights in Downing Street?
Mr. Charisma.
I'm going to keep that back, but this was yesterday, where he'd obviously worked out that if he speaks, nobody, so he got the crowd involved. This is our great leader turning on the Downing Street Christmas lights yesterday, my friends.
We're going to do a 3, 2, 1 down. I want you all part of this, please. So let's start with a really loud 3, 2, 1. Let's go, Samuel.
Ladies and gentlemen, has he improved at all? This time last year, this went viral. This is really the character and the personality of the man we're talking about. Go.
Can you please join me when I say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yay! It worked. Nervous moment there, but it's all good.
Unlike this country, you idiot. Honestly, there's no charisma, is there?
It's just dark. The world looks at that. That is the leader of the United Kingdom. The world looks at this and just thinks, what on earth is going on over there?
Listen, I have to bring this up with you. You talked about this story, which is extraordinary. Birmingham bin strikes, which is perhaps what's going to happen across the country when people don't get, rather unions, what they want. This has been going on for ages, and the streets of Birmingham are strewn with rubbish. There are rats the size of, well, frankly, buffalo now. They've become so large, right? This is true. So they put agency bin workers in, right, paid for by the taxpayer, which costs more than the people that were striking. They've now gone on strike, the agency bin workers, but they're going to receive full pay despite the fact that they took time off. Sorry, how does that work?
Every Labour minister, I think, has took money from unions in order to fund their campaign. They get into office and they go, hey, guys, cough up. You know, it's like Lord Ali with his passes, and he buys Starmer a suit and then he gets passes in exchange. Unions coughed up a lot of cash to get the Labour Party into office, and now we're all paying for it. That's essentially what happens.
Agency
bin
bin workers.
Ridiculous. It is utterly ridiculous that constant strike. I mean, Labour councils cannot run a session in a brewery. It's the end result. You look at examples across the country of Labour councils who just pee money up against the wall. They have no respect for taxpayers. In Stockton, in my own area, we're seeing kids' play parks shut down, and they are spending £300,000 on an opening party for an urban park in the town centre. It's utterly kids' play park shut, but you can't find a couple of grand to keep the kids' play parks going, but you can find £300,000 for a party. These councils are, they're just off the leash. They're wild. They're feral. They're burning people's money and failing to deliver the services.
We have Richard Tyson after the news at 7, and one of the things that the Reform have done with this Doge thing, they've gone into the Kent County Council. It's millions of money misspent left, right and centre. How is that allowed to be happening?
Well, we could start talking about your mates in Reform and how they promised everybody tax cuts in their council tax and it didn't quite deliver. But some of these councils are literally...
They're not my mates, they're trying to do the job properly. They have found... Look at... it's slightly worrying there from the Tory party.
The reality is they were promising people tax cuts before council elections. They got elected and they realised it's a little bit harder than it looks to deliver those. I mean, you've got them guys who think they can, pray for council tax cuts. You've got the Greens who think they can pray and get bigger boobs. It's like, it's utterly... These people cannot run councils. None of them are quite as bad as the Labour Party, who tax you up to the eyeballs and pee it away on the most ridiculous projects. Those people in Birmingham are paying a fortune in council tax. Yeah. And the one thing they want to see from it is their bin emptied. It's the most basic service that a council should deliver. Utterly appalling.
Unbelievable. You're going by your bucket load to this. You're loving the presents thing. Reeves and Starmer, what would you buy them? The relatives you don't want to buy, but you have to. Max, good morning. I give them both the scan to check for microchips that a foreign power is implanted in their ridiculously stupid brains. Hello to Bill in Cheshire. Labour's master plan, simply put, it is scorched earth. They know they can never win an election again, so they are trying to destroy our society and economy as quickly as possible. If they can't govern, they're going to make damn sure the next government can't either. Hello to Lenny. Elephant and Castle. Don't know how I've done that. I would buy Starmer and Reeves a ticket for the Hampton Court Maze. The pair of numbnuts would never find their way out before the next election. Morning, Sean.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby. So the socialist doctors are going on strike again, and we all know what it's about. This is about what they believe they are entitled to. And you know what the funny thing is, mate? If I walked in my office this morning and asked my boss for a 20-odd% pay rise, I'd just get laughed at. I'd probably get the sack for having a neck like a giraffe. But this is normal for normal people. You know, we don't do such demands because they know they were unreasonable. But these people, mate, they just want to fleece the public even more. You know, I'd send them all to Australia. Get rid of them. Great show, mate.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, 5 to 7. Matt Vickers, Tory MP and generally a very nice man, has been doing the papers this morning. Jamie, good morning.
Morning, Jez. Great show. Jamie from Romford. I'd buy Starmer a one-way ticket to Mars so that he can feel the heat that the working man's feeling, because he doesn't care about the working man. He taxes a working man £500, loses one man's vote, but he gives that £100 each to 5 people on the dole and gains 5 votes. The workers in Birmingham will never go back to work while Starmer's in charge because they're on minimum wage. Other than the drivers, the loaders are on minimum wage. They take home £75 a day, roughly after tax. They're getting £70 a day from Unite the Union to sit on their backsides and strike. So would you bother going to work 40 hours a week for 25 quid? Because I know I wouldn't. And that is Starmonomics summed up in a nutshell.
It's absolutely right, isn't it?
Somebody pays for all of this madness, and it's working men out there. They're paying through the nose and getting sort of, particularly in Birmingham where your bin can't even be emptied. Can you imagine paying the levels of council tax you're paying? They can't even take the damn bin away.
I want to say good one to Mary in Canterbury. I love the fact when you text, some people really send long ones, and I appreciate this morning, Jez, Matt. When I listen to this about the junior doctors, I feel rage. They've got 28% pay rise. It's pure greed to come back for more. My daughter is a paramedic, and everybody on the news channels forgets about these men and women that are out there on the front line. Early hours of the morning, they're going to drug dens with people ODing, hangings, domestic abuse, you name it. They're on the front line getting you to the hospital for the doctors and the nurses who, I'm sorry, but are there in the warmth. They get constant abuse and violence off the public. Quite often they have to ask patients, can they use their toilets, but they have nowhere to pull up where we live and have a break. I've known my daughter to say we had to eat standing outside of the ambulance in the cold where they got nowhere to sit and eat a bloody sandwich. These greedy buggers want to look at their workmates who only got 3.5%, 3.6% last year. Spot on comment about paramedics, right?
Yeah, utterly ridiculous. I mean, how can you justify it for junior doctors when you're seeing those people on the front line who take the heat, who deal with all of the most awful situations in the world, in the most awful environments in the world, and get the 3%? Madness.
Is this new, this, Jamie? Wonder if I played this? Oh, good, lovely. I'd buy Star Maurice a ticket to a reform conference, says Paul in Preston. You might see me fronting it. I mean, fantastic. you should come to one of them. It's great. Hello to Simon in Essex. Morning, Jez. I'll buy Star Maurice a time machine and a third-class ticket on Titanic. Brian's in Somerset. Morning, Jez. Regarding tax rises, Reeves and Starmer are asking for a tax contribution. Contributions surely are optional, so I opt out. John from Portsmouth. Hello, mate. I'd get Reeves and Starmer a lump of what? I'd get what? See, this is what happens to this machine. You lose it halfway through. A lump of coal for Christmas. It's all they deserve. Brilliant. Jez, I would buy Starmer a paint-by-numbers picture of Maggie Thatcher and Reeves a roll of bubble wrap to keep her busy. People are not impressed with our Prime Minister and Chancellor, are they?
I think balaclava for Rachel Thieves has got to be the best. Oh, maybe send them off to Gaza.
Yeah, Robin Hood wore a mask, mate, let's be honest. Thank you. We love having you on, Matty. So, Keir Starmer, Rachel Reeves, can they survive? Very quickly, answers.
The problem is Turkeys don't vote for Christmas. They've got a lot of MPs behind them who are too spineless to do anything about it.
Until they think they're going to lose their seats.
Well, there's this whole... The other thing is he said he's got confidence in it yesterday, which is usually the beginning of the downfall.
That was Monday. She'll be gone by Friday. Well, breaking news.
It's the back, crack and sack, isn't it, apparently? He backs them. Then he cracks under pressure when Kemi comes and batters him tomorrow. And she might be gone by Thursday. Who knows, eh?
David Lammy, let's get rid of juries. That can't be true and right, can it?
Insane. Well, I like what Lammy had to say in 2020. I think we should just, follow that line.
Junior doctors, you wouldn't give them 28.6% again?
I would ban them from striking. That's what we need to get there. I bet that paramedic, I don't know what rights they have to strike. We know the prison officers, we know the police officers out there on the front line, keeping the streets safe, are not allowed to strike. These people have control, literally, over whether people live or die, and are out there striking, costing people their lives. They've already had 28.9%. They come for another 26%. I think when we leave this place today, you should go and see your boss and see what their response is if you asked for a 26% pay rise. You will be laughed out of the park.
I actually don't have a boss. I'm joking. Matt Vickers, thank you very much indeed. It's almost 7 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Alarm clock. Brits, we love you. This is Talk with the Nation comes to talk. 0344 499 1000 and your text. The news at 7 is next to Morning Glory.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Morning, gang. Welcome along. Just gone 7 o'clock. It is, of course, Tuesday, the 2nd of December. On Talk, where the nation comes to have its say. Alarm clock Brits, we love you. We've been here since 6 and you're waking up to, well, yet more pressure on Rachel Thieves and Keir Starmer, the head of the Office for Budget Responsibility. He was the fall guy yesterday for the budget fiasco, none of which gets away from the fact that both of them should be absolutely under pressure. There's two clips I want to share with you very quickly. Yesterday, Keir Starmer, our devoted leader, said, "We did not mislead anyone. We are only being truthful." Go, Keir.
There was no misleading. And I simply don't accept, and I was receiving the numbers, that being told that the OBR productivity review means you've got £16 billion less than you would otherwise have had, shows that you've got an easy starting point. Yes, of course, all the other figures have to be taken into account, but we started the process with significantly less than we would otherwise have had.
So we did not mislead anyone. Now, his partner in crime, Rachel Thieves, who needs an abacus and a balaclava for Christmas, I reckon, she then admitted that they actually didn't tell the Cabinet everything. Morning, Rach.
You would never expect a Prime Minister and a Chancellor to go through all the detailed numbers. The Cabinet are briefed on the morning of the budget, on the budget numbers. Of course, we go through things that affect individual government departments, but the whole information of the budget is not supposed to be provided until the Chancellor delivers the budget. Obviously, this time it was leaked early, but not by the Treasury.
Unbelievable. What a ragtag bale of incompetence they are. We've also got the Justice Secretary and Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy, who today will tell us that courts and the backlog can only be dealt with by getting rid of juries. You know that safety net of being judged by your peers rather than a judge who could be a little bit, you know, skew-whiff. David Lammy will today say, we're getting rid of judges. We'll talk, getting rid of jurors. We'll tell you more about that. Just if you're feeling great this morning and thinking, why the hell do I bother? This will make you think. Junior doctors, who got 28.6%, I think, something like that, a year ago from West Streeting, who's called them Grinches this morning because, surprise, surprise, they're coming back for more. They're going to strike at Christmas between the 17th and the 22nd. Public sector at its best, peeps. They want another 28%. Your thoughts most welcome. And of course, teachers, they should take a bow this morning. This government wants to suggest that teachers should work a 4-day week because it's such a hard time. Everybody's going to go on strike. Everybody wants more money, including the bin men in Birmingham who have gone on strike, and I can respectfully tell you that they've been replaced by agency staff in Birmingham, which is costing the taxpayer even more. And now they've gone on bloody strike. Morning, Tom.
Morning, Jezza and gang. It's Tom from Birmingham. These agency bin workers that have gone on strike. One thing I don't quite understand. Our agency bin workers going on strike. Back in the day when I used to be on an agency, if I was to go on strike, or not that I ever did, but it would have been no problem. Give us your keys, no more work for you. You're an agency. Do you mean agency bin workers are going on strike on full pay as well? If the work don't get done, you don't get paid on an agency. That's how it works. I'll tell you what, let's all go on strike. Let's bring the country to a standstill. Let's all go on strike until we get 80,000 so we can be better off than these people with 3 kids that can't afford them. Shocking. Absolute shocking.
And the truth about that is that there will not be a person listening to this programme this morning that does not agree. Tom, thank you. We say a very good morning to the Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Head of Doge, MP, in fact, Roy Clever, and Richard Tice. Good morning. How are you?
Well, it's morning. Judging by your intro there, I'm not sure it's good. I think Tom absolutely nailed it. How can agency staff go on strike? And I do think we need to establish whether or not they are actually going to be paid whilst they're on strike or whether they're just going to be binned in the bins that they're not collecting.
No. Listen, they will receive full pay despite being given the day off as a result of strike action. Honestly, Richard, I came in here this morning and you've got your head in your hands. I don't know where to start, but I'm going to start with some breaking news because you'll love this. We've just received a new poll that says over a third of the United Kingdom think Rachel Reeves exaggerated bad news in the run-up to the budget. And in a massive blow to our incompetent Prime Minister, Labour, are you ready for this, Richard Tice, are now less trusted on the economy than, can you fill in 2 words for me?
Zach Polanski?
Liz Truss. I mean, you're screwed if that's the case. I mean, it is mass incompetence, isn't it?
Look, it was a shambolic process. She basically has presided over 3 car crashes. The first one was the budget last year, which destroyed business confidence, led to slowing growth to zero growth, led to a collapse in jobs. The second car crash was this whole run-up to the budget. And there's no question that essentially they misled everybody. They misled people in Parliament, MPs, they misled the British people, they misled the markets. That whole November 4th press conference was very odd because everyone thought there was going to be something dramatic. And then she basically talked sort of doom and gloom, but didn't actually say anything dramatic. And I think when you look back at it, that was the clue. You know, why was that press conference held? And then you had the shambolic leak of the whole budget an hour before. But actually, it's much more serious than that, Jeremy, because it turns out that we think market traders, from information given to the Commons yesterday, were trying to access that website, and some of them may well have downloaded it hours beforehand. And here's the rub: this goes on every year, and this has been going on for a number of years. It was going on at the Spring Statement, so it looks like people have known the address, how to get into that website, and possibly been able to manipulate markets and profit on the back of hacking the OBR's website. I mean, shocking incompetence all around. It's quite right that the boss has gone. Now it's just how long Rachel Reeves is going to cling on to her job before Starmer ditches her.
But there's the issue, isn't it, Richard? You know, in your time in Parliament already, they are inextricably linked at the hip. I suspect that he is going to do all that he can to sustain her simply because everybody knows. I mean, she said in that clip yesterday, you know, we're a partnership. Of course she wouldn't tell Cabinet and everything. I think they're both... They're people who are... They're dead people walking. I don't care what anybody says. It is only a matter of time, I think, before his MPs begin to look at their in-trays, their emails, and people know that they're toast. And it's extraordinary. And I guess I want to ask you, because you're in the Commons, I asked Mac Vickers, we can see through the screens the body language, the incompetence. It rains through. Is it the same up close and personal, pal?
It's worse, actually.
Is it?
And I think the prospects of the Prime Minister taking the Labour Party into those May elections is diminishing by the week, actually, not just Rachel Reeves. I mean, there are serious moves against the Prime Minister. The look of doom and gloom amongst the Parliamentary Labour Party is quite extraordinary. Not surprising, because he's just completely politically inept.
Yeah.
And you just have to wonder... You know, who are they sort of in hock to? Is it to the unions, or is it to the Chinese, who they're sort of giving away all our assets to and kowtowing to, whether it's giving away the Chagos Islands, kowtowing over the super mega embassy that shouldn't be approved, that they will approve, the collapse of the Chinese spy case, all of these things actually just destroy confidence in the people who are supposed to look after our...
And the lesson...
And our security and our defence, frankly.
The lesson surely should be from the last government that once you lose the ear of the British public, there's no way back. I want to ask you about the other main news story today, because I've got a clip you're going to love. David Lammy, in a wig and a pair of tights, will today say, as the Justice Secretary and Deputy Prime Minister, that we should abandon the tradition of jury trials. It is clear that it's the only way of dealing with the backlog. Yesterday, I spoke to one of the leading KCs in England who said being, you know, that safety net of 12 of your peers from a cross-demographic is really, really important. Lammy says the only way to deal with this backlog is to get rid of juries. Guess what he said in 2020, Richard and Peeps? Have a watch.
The jury system is fundamental to our constitutional arrangement. We should not use the coronavirus as a cover to abandon juries, which is the opportunity to be judged by 12 of your peers. Juries being replaced by judges and magistrates is effectively the establishment, rather than your peers who live in your community deciding what justice should be.
It's interesting, isn't it, Richard Tice? Because today he's done a full 360 and he's abandoning that idea.
Well, let's see what he says in the Commons. But I think generally the British people would rather trust juries than wet, woke, lefty judges in the vast majority of the time where it's suitable. There is a massive court backlog. As I said to the Minister in the Commons just a few days ago, the way to deal with that actually is to improve the efficiencies, the processes and the technologies of the court system, if necessary. In addition, create a sort of a parallel track court system for specific areas. So that
would I be naive to talk about? Would I be naive to talk about will? There being a will to do things, Richard, because I remember after the appalling Southport riots, and I was very strongly in support of Starmer until he came out with that horrible far-right label. But it was amazing for us here because in 24 hours, policemen and women who didn't exist took to the streets and arrested people. And within 24 hours, these people were tried in courts that apparently there was an 80,000 backlog. And within 24 hours, these people would have been put in prison. And apparently we didn't have any spaces. I would respectfully suggest that if you have a will to do something about a problem, you can get it sorted, can't you?
Bingo, there you are. You see, it's about the political will and leadership and focus. But in too much of the public sector, particularly around the Justice and Home Office departments, that will is rarely found, if perhaps never found. That's the simple reality of it. And I think British people are raging about this, absolutely raging. Jury trials is a foundation of who we are, of ensuring proper justice. It's why we've probably got the most respected legal system in the world, actually. And Mr. Lammy seems to be trying to sort of undermine that. And he's going after it's the wrong solution to the problem. It's just as simple as that. And he needs to think again. They've just got to make themselves much more efficient and use technologies and processes. It's so much of what we see is just absolutely archaic. And by the way, whilst we're talking about courts and tribunals, when I went to a court recently in my constituency, I was raging to see translator after translator for people who are suspects, who are on trial. And of course, who's paying for all this translation stuff? You and I, and all of your good listeners and viewers. And isn't it funny how as soon as the suspect leaves the court, they seem to break into decent English. Funny that.
Absolutely. I want to ask you very quickly, because I know you're up against it, very quickly, one-word answers never happen with RT, but I'm going to go. Junior doctors today been accused of wrecking Christmas. They're going on strike from the 17th to the 22nd. This is after getting a 26% pay rise. The Labour Party in hock, of course, to the unions. They want 28.9%. And people wonder why this country's on its backside. Please tell me you're as outraged by this as I am.
It's appalling, absolutely appalling. It's selfish. Who do these people think they are, having just secured a massive, massive pay rise? The word actually to the nation is thank you, not we're going on strike again.
Finally, just to completely go with it, have you heard this madness from Bridget Phillipson? They're calling for a 4-day week in schools to ease teacher burnout. Nobody's given any thought to what will happen to the daycare of those kids. Reform's position on a 4-day week for school teachers, Richard?
Is it April the 1st? I'm a bit confused. Oh, no, it's December the 2nd. Oh, just ridiculous. There are multiple crises in and around the education system, particularly around SEND, which I've been talking about recently. And just finally, I do need to correct your previous commentator, Mr. Vickers, who completely incorrectly, with regard to what he said about reform, we said we would slash waste and cut incompetent, bad spending in councils. That's what we're doing. We never said we're going to cut council taxes. There is a thing called inflation, by the way, Mr. Vickers, and we're doing a great job. We've saved over £300 million already. We've identified over £1 billion a year of potential savings in pensions. I've talked about the SEN system that well-meaning but actually needs fundamental reform. So in just a few short months, we're doing a lot more than his party did to ruin SEN in about 10 years.
Richard Tice, it's always a pleasure and never a chore, dear boy. Loving the tie this morning as well, making a change. Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform, 7:17. Let's cross live to Westminster. This man's braving the elements again. I hope it's not as windy as last week. Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer. A very good morning, Mel Stride. How are you, Mel?
Good morning, Jeremy. It's a little bit cold and a little bit damp, but it's great to be on your show.
Bless you, thank you. I'm going to just hit you straight away. You might or might not know this. A new poll literally out 10 minutes ago says that a third of British people believe that Rachel Reeves exaggerated economic bad news in the run-up to the budget. And an even bigger blow to the Prime Minister, Labour, oh my God, watch Mel Stride's face, are now less trusted on the economy than, and it's two words, the first word is Liz and the second word is Truss. That's not a great start to a Tuesday for a Prime Minister, but to be honest, thoroughly deserved, Mel Stride.
Yeah, absolutely, Jeremy. Look, they have made a complete mess of our economy. They said they wouldn't be putting up taxes left, right and centre. They have, mainly on businesses, killed growth, talked down the economy with a fictitious £22 billion black hole, borrowed and spent vast amounts of money, as socialist governments always do, which has stoked inflation, kept interest rates higher for longer, huge mountain of debt, servicing costs on that, about £100 billion a year or twice what we spend on defence. The recent budget, what have they done? Slap more taxes on hard-working people whilst increasing the benefits bill. You really could not make it up. And as to the Chancellor's position in your poll there and whether people believe her, we've had this absolute farce of a build-up to the recent budget, which has included the fact that on the 4th of November, Rachel Reeves put together this press conference at number 10 Downing Street and basically said there was a huge black hole in the public finances, when we now know that on the 31st of October, a few days earlier, she'd been given the numbers by the OBR and they had shown a surplus against her targets. And I'm afraid that is just simply misleading.
And actually, more than misleading, because my big thing in doing this, and you know this, Mel, is that the politicians have to understand that the silent majority have woken up in this country. What I call alarm clock Brits, who have been with us since 6 o'clock this morning, getting up all hours to pay their taxes and do everything right, are literally saying to us in their droves, if this was in anything other than politics, this woman would be fired for incompetence within a heartbeat for lies. Yesterday, Richard Hughes, all over front of every newspaper, Daily Mail, the fall guy for Reeves's budget lies. Richard Hughes, I'm not condoning the OBR's leak, but it does seem as if, you know, the Labour Party will close ranks to protect itself. And there was me thinking they came to power and decided or said they were going to put country before party, Mel.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Look, nobody's suggesting for a minute that something very serious other than that something very serious happened at the OBR. A leaking of a budget is unprecedented and a very, very serious thing. But it is very convenient to Rachel Reeves that, having effectively withdrawn support from Richard Hughes, he has now stepped down, and this has now started to occupy the airwaves and space on the front page of the newspapers. But of course this is totally unrelated to the fact that, as we've been saying, Rachel Reeves stood up at that press conference, misrepresented the state of the public finances as a means, incidentally, of suggesting she'd have to put up income tax, then probably discovered that her backbenchers wouldn't wear it, decided to reverse on that position, and then later on the 14th of November, actually suggested that the reversal on that position was good news because there was now more information and the public finances had improved. But there wasn't more information, because the only information was the same information in that forecast back on the 31st of October. So none of this adds up, and it is misleading, and it's completely wrong, and I think the Chancellor's position is now untenable.
Well, they're so linked, it'll be interesting. I know you haven't got much time. A couple of very quick questions for you, Mel. Very quickly, we hear this morning that junior doctors, quite rightly accused of wrecking Christmas, are due to go on strike 17th of December the 22nd. I think it's an utter disgrace. 26% when Streeting, you know, walked into the health service and health department and said, I'll sort this out. A year later, they want 28.9%. What does that say to hard-working Brits who are getting through? What about paramedics on 3.6%? It's an outrage.
Is completely wrong and shows enormous naivety on the part of Wes Streeting and the government, that they thought that they would just go in and buy everybody off, whether it was train drivers, junior doctors, whoever it was, with these huge pay rises. No strings attached, incidentally, Jeremy, no requirements for real reform or improvements in productivity and efficiency. And as you say, we're now in this position where right at the worst possible time in the run-up to Christmas, the junior doctors have decided to do this. What we need is actually what what we're proposing, which is minimum service levels for those working in those positions in our National Health Service, so they're not able to cause this level of disruption. It's going to be very serious consequences of this for people's health in our country, and it's entirely wrong.
And just finally, very quickly, calls today headed by Bridget Phillipson, another dangerous human being, the Education Secretary, for a 4-day week in schools to ease teacher burnout. Quick response to that, Mel Stride?
Completely the wrong thing to do. I mean, all of this movement, we've seen it in local authorities, Lib Dem run local authorities, etc., this move towards saying, well, everybody's happier and more productive if they go down from 5 to 4 days or whatever it may be. The reality is that is not the case. We need people out there working hard, getting the job done. Nobody's saying that our teachers aren't working very hard. We know they are, and we know that, of course, teachers do a great job, and sometimes under very difficult circumstances, but rowing back the number of times that teachers need to go into the school each week, I think is definitely the wrong call.
Mel, we love it. I guess you're looking forward to the summer. We'll keep banging on. We appreciate you being on the show. Mel Stride, Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer there. His opinions on Rachel Reeves well known. 0344 499 1000. Voice note or call. Good morning in Staffordshire. Gemma, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm well. Welcome to Morning Glory. You're going to give me one. I can just hear this in your voice. Go on. You're a teacher, aren't you?
I was. I've had a year off.
All right.
Exactly a year off. From December the 1st to December the 1st. How about that?
Why?
Well, I wasn't very well. Let's just put it that way. But now I've got a chest infection, so that's great. So I can't believe the doctors are going on strike and the teachers want a 4-day week. So my point to you is this. As I've said to you before, Jeremy, a teacher's day starts about 7:30 when they get to work.
Mm-hmm.
And then it probably finishes about 5:30 when they leave the car park to go home.
Mm-hmm.
So if you times that's what's that, 10 hours.
Yeah.
By 4, that's 40 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can have Friday off. But then you've got to work on Saturday as well to do the marking. So I think it's...
This marking always worries me, and I'm not being disrespectful, Gem, and I actually agree with Mel Stride. A lot of teachers doing an incredibly difficult job, and you can't say boo to a goose and all that. But I'm trying to ask people to look at the wider context, right? In a situation where alarm clock Brits are listening to you, they're going 7:30 to 5:30 with a warm, canteen or teacher staff room to have this. Are you joking me? And lunch, they're on the road, they're out there in inclement weather. I'm not saying, but this marking thing, how long does it take to mark? Why does it take all weekend? Why can't you mark at lunchtime?
Are you talking about primary school teachers or secondary school teachers?
Any teacher. They always say to me, oh, I've got marking to do. I've got 6 bloody kids. I'd love a 10-hour day.
Jeremy, you've got 6 kids, right? So that's 6 kids. So how long does it take 6 kids to do their homework? Bearing in mind that the average, I think the government's guidelines is 2 hours a night in year 6.
Well, not at 6 years of age. Oliver probably does about half an hour. What?
Year 6.
I don't know, mate. Listen, I've got so many kids I've forgotten how old they are, but they've all done their homework in their... What's that got to do with marking?
Listen to me. You've got 30 kids, 5 lessons. That's 5 times 3, 15, 150 books.
Right.
Is that right?
So you've got to read all of them?
Well, English ones definitely. Maths mark themselves. Science, definitely read it.
They don't have too hard a time, the teachers, do they? Let me ask you, you won't be able to answer this next bit, by the way, Jim. Here's the best bit. What are the parents who are working supposed to do if you only do 4 days a week? Who's going to pay for the childcare?
I don't know, because they're going to have 4 days off a week, 4 days working week as well, aren't they, if you think about it?
I think it's outrageous.
It's football or music or brownies. Oh, and you've got to factor in the fact that music teachers, for example, which I was, at a primary school, they do half an hour of band practice in lunch. So you only got half an hour of lunch, and then you've got to have your lunch.
I don't even get a lunch hour. I've got a lorry driver who's just texted me and went, band practice. Are you joking, mate? He's doing a 15-hour week. Listen, Jem, I completely get, and I mean this genuinely, that there are teachers...
What do you mean you don't have a lunch?
I don't have a lunch break.
No, but you do have lunch.
What time do you think I got up this morning?
3:30.
2 a.m. Came from the coast. What time will I go to bed?
Well, you finish work at 10 o'clock tonight, I bet.
I don't. I'm working all day.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, 10 o'clock this morning.
Yeah, and then I've got 3 meetings, then I'm filming a television show this afternoon. I'll get dinner at 7 and go to bed at 9.
You have to have... Right, there's a legal requirement of how many hours any
Well, we come from a different world. There's no legal requirement to sit down and have dinner and all that. I'm simply saying, a bit like junior doctors, gentlemen, you know, everybody can have an argument, is this, right? If you look at the wider context of people in this country who are grafting, who are really struggling, there will not be much sympathy. I have to move on. I'm glad you're better. I'm delighted to have you on the show. Anna, what do you make of the junior doctors, love?
Morning, Jez. Anna, sorry. Here's a message to the junior doctors. Guys, I'm going out today. I am probably your parents' age. I don't know if I'm actually going to make any money. You know for why? Because I'm self-employed and I have to pay for every other, I can't say the word, on the planet before I even take a fiver for myself today. I don't have the luxury of phoning in sick today. I wouldn't be able to get a doctor to get a sick note to give myself anyway, would I? I don't get the luxury of my gold-plated pension, and I don't get the luxury of standing out on the pavements with my world's tiniest violin, giving the people walking past me who pay my rather wonderful large wage a sob story about how I've lost X amount in so many years. I would just say to you, if I was Starmer, I'm sorry for rambling, you're not having a pay rise. Here's your ticket, off you go.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Morning, my friends. 7:30 on Morning Glory. This is where the nation comes to speak. 0344 499 1000 is the telephone number. You can send your voice notes as well, and also your text 87222. Vicky from Birmingham. Hang on a minute, Jez. Teachers working 4 days a week. Does that include the support staff? Yes, remember us, the office staff, the bloody women and men that the school wouldn't run without. We barely get a mention. Loving the show. Good morning to Emma in Kent. Jezza, budget fiasco, greedy junior doctors, agency bin men striking on full pay, another cringy Christmas tree light switch on. The latest series of The Thick of It has gone on for far too long. I love your honesty. Good morning to Ivor. Do you think he's got an engine? Nobody will get that, bar Mark. Morning, Jez. Since the whole basis of our new tax rises was false, surely the budget... you see, why'd you... That's what happens. I was going to share this with you, peeps, if you dare to have a biscuit before you come back on air. There we go. Surely, says Ivor, the budget must now be declared null and void. Rachel Reeves should be sent away with her calculator and told to come with a revised budget based on £4 billion surplus she has. Ivor, I suggest most people would just be happy if she was sent away. Hello to Daryl, loving the show this morning. He said, I don't want to rub it in, but thank God my family and me are off to Florida in 18 days' time for Christmas. At least if I choke on a turkey bone, I'll get medical care. What the hell is going on in this bloody country? It's an embarrassment. Big love, mate, and I hope you and the family have a great Christmas. He's out of here already. Sarah's in Wiltshire. Morning, Jez. I wouldn't... Oh, this is because, if you're tuning in now, I just... You know, at Christmas you have those relatives that you have to buy a present for, but you don't really want to. And I said, what would you buy? Starmer and Reeves. Just a bit of fun. Sarah in Wiltshire. Jez, I wouldn't buy anything for Starmer and Reeves. I can't afford to because those couple of... have tacked us to death. Good. Maggie, yeah, she hates them as well. Everybody seems to hate Starmer. But let's change the subject. Let's talk about junior doctors, just to get you even more riled up. News today that junior doctors have decided to strike from the 17th of December to the 22nd. They're demanding 26%, having already had the equivalent a year ago. Even Wes Streeting, who thought he could cure all the problems in the world by giving them that ridiculous pay rise, is calling them Grinch. We're delighted. Good friend of mine, former NHS Trust Chairman Roy Lilly. Good morning. Welcome to breakfast, Roy. How are you?
Morning. Super good, thank you.
You sat in that. It looks like a prison cell, Roy, but we'll let you get away with it. Listen, 26%, 28%. I think not only are they wrecking Christmas, I think they're a disgrace, and I think it will lead, quite rightly, in the future to calls for any future government to make it illegal for medical... Nurses, 5%, Roy. It's a joke.
It is. And, of course, I was watching Mel Stripe when you spoke to him earlier this morning. You know, he was talking about making it more difficult for people to go on strike, minimum service standards and all the rest of it. We sort of have some of that now. And it is quite interesting that the NHS is getting very good at handling with strikes, which is a terrible thing to say. But the last time round, they got 93% of people through the system, even though the strike was on. So I suppose it's having less and less of an impact. But, you know, it's a totally incredulous claim at a time. I mean, the doctors in terms are saying, our wages has been eroded by inflation. Well, whose hasn't? You know, we're all in the same boat, really. But they just don't seem to care. The public opinion is starting to drop off against them as well, and they don't seem to care about that either. They want what they want. They have a more genuine claim, I think. It's true to say that when they come out of training, a lot of them can't get a job because the government isn't funding enough doctors' places in hospitals and GP practices. But at the end of the day, you know, and I know that, and you of all people know with the kind of programs that you used to do, at the end of the day, you have to sit down and talk. You know, you and I have a row. We have a row with a neighbour, with our partner, with our boss. You know, at the end of the day, we have to talk. Now, when Streeting was the Shadow Secretary of State for Health and Steve Barclay was trying to solve the strikes for the Tories, I mean, he laid into him and said, you've got to talk and all the rest of it. Well, actually now, Streeting is Steve Barclay relived because everything he accused Barclay of doing, Streeting's doing, bad-mouthing the doctors, won't talk to the BMA. At the end of the day, we've got to grow up. My advice to him will be go to ACAS, get yourself out of the frame, go to the experts on industrial relations and see what they can do.
Do you know what I'd do? I'd ban them from striking like the police and the army. I think it's a disgrace. I think they are very easily accused of not only wrecking Christmas, but they will cost people their lives. I think it is an absolute farce when you consider how hard-working Brits who get up every single morning, who are paying their taxes, the alarm clock Brits, and I keep calling them that, Roy, for a reason, are going to look at that and go, 28%, not my wildest dreams. What, but twice in 12 months? You say it's dropping off public opinion. I would say it's even worse than that. I think people are lacking in any belief, and I've heard about the hours, and I've heard, yes, it's not an easy time for anybody, but that's just taking it. I think it's outrageous, and I think the BMA is a warped, ideologically based, left-wing leading union that are out for political means and not their members' best interest. Because not once have I heard any junior doctor or union official say to me, oh, it's actually about working conditions, it's about money in their pocket. Well, if you're going to give that to them, what about nurses? What about paramedics? What about support staff? What about all those wonderful men and women who spend all night bringing you a sandwich, sweeping the floor, cleaning the toilets? I bet they don't get it. I bet they don't.
I mean, you're absolutely right. The difficulty with legislation is if you ban doctors from going on strike, fine, you know, let's do it. then what happens if the nurses want to go on strike? If you ban nurses going on strike, the radiographers can bring most hospitals to a grinding halt if they stop doing x-rays and radiology. So you'd have to have blanket legislation right across the public service and say that no one, working in the NHS can go on strike. If you do that, fine. If you do that, you have to give them something in exchange for not being able to go on strike, rather the same way we have with the police, for example, who do have a very good pay review body system. The doctors and the NHS doesn't. It's too clunky and takes too long to make decisions. At the end of the day, Jeremy, good industrial relations resolves this. And proper handling by ministers. And if I may say, I think Streeting has made a complete Horlicks of handling this.
He thought it was too easy, Roy. He thought it was too easy, give them what they wanted, give them the union powers a rise and what, but it's going to come back.
He bought them off for a huge amount of money, which the NHS had to scramble to find the funding for. This is the awkward part about it. The NHS itself doesn't hold the head contracts with all its staff. They're with the Department of Health. So the doctor's row is with the Department of Health, not with their employers as such. It's with Streeting. The hospital, if I was running a hospital, there would be nothing I could do. The doctors are not even required in law to tell me if they're going on strike. So it makes planning really difficult. At the end of the day, this is down to the DH and Streeting to sit down, grown up, and fix it. And obviously, he's not going to be able to throw more money at it because we all know the state of the economy. But he's got to grow up and stop calling them names and fix it, which is why I say the relationship. I mean, I'm interested in how we resolve this. The rights and the wrongs of it are for another time. But what I would do is I would go to ACAS and see if you can negotiate a settlement.
Listen, great, Roy. Love having you on, mate. This man ran an NHS trust. He knows how to get it done, despite the fact he sat in what looks like a prison cell. Roy Lilly, you're a legend. Thank you. 21 minutes to 8 o'clock. This is Morning Glory on Talks, where the nation comes to speak. Morning, Gary in Coventry. How are you, son?
Oh, fine, thank you, sir. How are you?
I'm not bad for a balding 60-year-old has-been. Come on, crack on. Time is money.
Probably balding 72. This school teachers, 4-day week.
Yeah, it's hard for being teachers.
Does that mean they're going to take a pay cut then?
You what?
Does that mean they're going to take a pay cut? As for the NHS, and it's been talked about through the pensioners all the while, the way they treated us with COVID and everything, if they want to leave the country to go and work somewhere else, that's fine. Let them go. But they don't come back to Britain. When they leave to go to New Zealand or Canada or wherever, they lose their British passport. They don't come back.
Well, listen, I've said it on many occasions. I'm sorry, I can't believe that a 4-day week is the answer. I hear about burnout and having to do your marking at the weekend, and then I speak to people, alarm clock Brits, who get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and do a 15-hour day. If you do a 4-day week for teachers, you're right. Should they take a pay cut of 20%? And also, while we're at it, what happens to the kids, the working people who rely on their kids to go to school? How are they going to pay for childcare? Are the teachers going to nominate that? I've no idea. Gary, I guess you're a Coventry City fan?
God, no.
Who do you support then?
Nobody.
Nobody?
Not at all.
Just your family and yourself. Anyway, lovely to have you on, Gaz. Keep smiling. Lovely man. He's happy, isn't he? I would do it, but all I've got is Mal. Is it Malcolm? It's Malcolm. Morning.
Hi, Jezza. It's Malcolm in Devon. I'm probably in an early alarm clock, Brit, getting up at 6 to go to Bristol for a full day, to stay overnight to do another day in Bristol. To come home tomorrow night somewhere. I'm what you call an Ed, not a twat. Not Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays. Me being an Ed means every day. Love your show, mate. Have a good one. Cheers.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
She certainly is, Julia Hartley-Brewer from 10 and Ian Collins, sounding fantastic in the afternoon. This is Talk, the home of common sense, where the nation comes to speak. It's Tuesday morning, 17 minutes to 8. We're waking up to the news that Reeves and Starmer under yet more pressure. How long can they survive? And for a bit of fun, we were saying, you know, what would you buy them for Christmas? You know, those relatives that you don't really like. We've got David Lammy, the Justice Secretary and Deputy Prime Minister, who today will say we should drop juries in trials. Not that he said that 5 years ago. Junior doctors, they're going on strike. That's wound you all up massively. They want another 26%. I think they're wrecking Christmas. I think they're breaking the law, and I think they shouldn't be given a penny more. And the teachers. Oh, yes. Plans for a 4-day week in school to ease teacher burnout. We had Gemma on from Staffordshire saying it's really hard being a teacher. Mark in Hampshire. Teachers only do 24 hours a week in front of the class, so that's 13.5 hours a week to do marking. I'm not sure how the weekends work out. Joanna from Salisbury. I love that teacher. All the hours she works for getting long holidays and training days, really. Parents work as many hours, many of them, with multiple jobs to make ends meet. Then they have to start again when they get home, getting mentally overtired children to do homework along with home life and clubs. Really? This is very quick. Dan from Hartlepool. Why did I say it like that? Doesn't matter. I'm a self-employed Sparky, and our lass, I guess that's his wife, is a secondary art teacher. I'm with you on the fact she doesn't have the hardest day's graft, but I will stick up for the fact that she's up at 6, in work an hour before school starts, break time duty 3 days a week, lunch clubs every day, after school clubs 2 days a week, marking lesson plans, she's working to at least 7. So to be fair, they do work long hours. I think the problem with burnout comes from the lack of support up above. It might well do, pal, but I just think in the environment we're in, it's really difficult for hard-working Brits who are paying taxes to make sure migrants have a better life and junior doctors get, what, 58% or something. They'll go, hold on a minute, you need to do what you need to do. It's not nice, it's not easy. One of the main news stories also today, so you'll know what's happening in Birmingham, where those bin men and women, I have to say that. It says bin men here, is that right? They've been on strike for about 15 months since Labour came to power, because they want about 100% pay rise, and the government said no. So the local authority in Birmingham decided to bring in agency bin collection workers. And now I'm with the caller earlier. I thought if you worked for an agency, you got paid for what you did. They've now gone on strike. That's the agency bin workers, the relief workers. They've gone on strike, but they're going to get from the council full pay despite the fact that they're on strike. Richard Parkin is a Conservative councillor in Birmingham for Sutton Redicap. Richard, what's gone wrong with your city? I mean, I spent long enough there. Have they gone completely barking mad? Why are agency staff getting paid for not going to work to fill in for striking bin men?
It's an absolute morning, Jeremy, by the way. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's an absolute scandal here in Birmingham. I mean, you talk about the junior doctors trying to wreck Christmas, but it's the nightmare before Christmas here in Birmingham. I mean, yesterday the agency workers joined the strike, and it marked day 330 of the strike. The first strike was called on January the 6th last year. So we've had no recycling collections, no bulky waste collections, no green waste collections. Now the agency workers are going on strike, and Labour have lost control of Birmingham City Council. It's as simple as that. It's an absolute scandal, and residents have just had enough.
What are the original bin men asking for? In basic, quick terms, what is it they want from the council, which is, of course, £3 billion in hock, a Labour council?
It's difficult to explain quickly, but very briefly, there was a bin strike in 2017, which Labour resolved. But in resolving the bin strike in 2017, the council inflated pay grades and started overpaying bin men. So now the commissioners have come in to oversee the bankrupt council. They've told the bin men that the waste and recycling collection officer role has to go, and the bin driver's pay grade has to be reduced. Otherwise, they prolong the equal pay liability, which has cost the council up to £760 million. That's the long and short of it. The council have to stand firm on this, and they are, but they're only doing so because the commissioners are leaning over their shoulder. Of course, with the news yesterday that the agency workers have gone on strike, it's just another nail in the coffin.
But who decides that those agency workers will receive full pay despite being given the day off as a result of strike action? Which idiot or numpty with a council that's already on its backside thinks, you know what, you're a part-time temporary worker coming to... You now agree, so we're going to pay you. Who makes that sort of decision, pal?
It's unbelievable. This is taxpayers' money we're talking about here as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a full council meeting this afternoon, and I'm sure that's a question that's going to be raised because I only heard that yesterday, and I was absolutely staggered that we're actually paying people to stay at home. I mean, it's...
What's this country coming to, mate? You just nailed it with a sentence which seems to sort of cover most of what I do this morning, which is we're paying people to stay at home. You must continue the fight, though. Birmingham, I was there many years. It's an outrage for the residents. Just finish with that. It is difficult for them, right? Very difficult.
Well, look, just on a final note, we want a lot of positivity here in Birmingham. I'm a Birmingham City fan, and we've just invested as a club billions of pounds into the sports quarter, and it's going to bring lots and lots of jobs to the area. And the longer that we've got this Labour Birmingham City Council prolonging the bin strike, it's just dragging the reputation of the city down.
Are you feeling like you might take today off because as a Birmingham City fan you're quite disappointed and anxious and depressed?
It crossed my mind, Jeremy, but I think I'll drag myself into the council chamber this afternoon.
Good man. It's great to have you on, Richard, and thank you for keeping us abreast of a terrible situation. They've been on strike for a year, the Birmingham bin men and women, and the residents are up in arms. The government's, the council's completely broke. Commissioners are saying you can't pay these wages out. Agency workers brought in at high cost, probably more than they're paying the bin men. They've now gone on strike. And the blimmin' council have decided they're going to pay those people because it's human rights or some other rubbish. So we've got junior doctors on strike, we've got bin men on strike, and the teachers want a 4-day week. Morning, Phil.
Well, Jeremy, Phil from Hastings. I'm supposed to feel sorry for teachers because they've got to do a 10-hour day. I do 9 hours on site and around 5 to 6 hours of driving on top of that. So no, I don't feel sorry for teachers having to do a 10-hour day. Cheers, mate. Great show.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Morning team, what is it, 8 minutes to 8? We're live across the UK. This is Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Can I just say to Carol in West Sussex, this is interesting, my grandson is coming to the end of a year 2 junior doctor training. There are 30,000 young doctors, Jezza, chasing 10,000 jobs. So actually, at the end of it all, he's had no idea if he'll even get a placement. The whole of the NHS needs sorting, and why are they training more and more when there aren't enough jobs to go around? It doesn't make sense. Barry from Dundee, he's on the teacher thing. He says, Gemma has obviously never worked outside the school system. As a self-employed software developer, I get a break when I go to bed at night. From the minute I'm awake, I'm working 4 day a week. Yeah, no problem, as long as I get a 4 day a week pay instead of what I decide to put in. That's how people feel about it. Kathy, the teachers did not ask for this. Read the proposal properly. It does not mean they will work only 4 days. They will work 5. We worked out, so 1 day is for the preparation for lessons and marking. All right, Kathy, we'll take that. 1 day to work out your lessons and your marking. Dev is in Turkey. Lucky you. I'm retired now, but I was an HGV1 driver for almost all my working life. We did 60 plus hours per week, mainly away from home. My last truck driving job was 4 on, 4 off, but still did 40 hours. What planet are these blimmin' people on? So much in the news today. Rachel Reeves, Keir Starmer under pressure increasingly. David Lammy, the man who says, I think we should get rid of juries. Not that he said that 5 years ago. We'll tell you more about that. Junior doctors, they want another 26%. I don't know, teachers just want to do 4 days a week. The agency bin men in Birmingham are on strike. What a happy country we live in. Certainly it's not happy if he called Andrew Mountbatten Windsor yesterday. The ex-Prince Andrew was formally stripped of his last remaining royal titles. The King formally cancelled and annulled his brother's membership of the Order of the Garter in an official announcement at midday yesterday in the Gazette, the country's official public record. We say a very good morning to royal biographer Angela Levin. Angela, it's been ages. How are you, my darling?
I'm very well, thank you. Nice to be here.
And you. That's it then, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you have to see why, really. It's been quite cruel and very sort of quick. And I think it's because there's going to be a stream running from America about what's been happening. And they think it could just destroy the monarchy. So I think they're making sure that all these things are done very quickly out the way, as if they no longer have anything to do with him.
Can I throw something at you, which
yes.
is just the other side of the coin? It's not what I mean. I think he's a disgrace. You know, my old man worked for the royal family for 42 years. I'm a royalist through and through. I think he is an entitled, obnoxious pain in the backside who for years has treated people badly and has been caught out. However, I do have to make this point, even though it won't be popular. When you look at those Epstein files, as much as we can do, and you hear of some of the names and some of the people, be they presidents, kings, whatever, right? Do you think he's been made a scapegoat, Angela, or do you think it's thoroughly deserved?
No, I don't think it's a scapegoat. I think it's actually to save the monarchy. And I think also that I have a wife who spends a lot of time trying to help women who are raped, and also Sophie, and who does the same thing. You can't actually try and do that to somebody if all this is going on his side. I think that's really why. And actually, today in one of the papers, it says that he was helping women go to Epstein. He was finding them, chatting them up and passing them on in the late 1990s. I mean, I think you just get such a terrible smell. We can get the other ones whenever we need to, but I just think that the monarchy has to be saved, and it has to be dealt with in a proper manner.
Does this save the monarchy with him banished?
Well, I think they don't have to hear disgusting things that he might have got into, and I think that's very important.
What becomes of him, Andrew? There's talk of him going to Sandringham, to the estate in Norfolk, into a far-flung cottage. She might live in a granny annex that used to be a cowshed at her daughter's house in Cotswolds. What do you make of it?
Well, I think Sarah, if she's moving away from him now, there's something very significant about that too, because she's always said, oh, he's lovely, he's the best husband, he's the best, you know, then you think, why did she actually divorce him? But never mind. But I think he will be very depressed. But he's very resilient in that he never listens to do what he's told. Yeah. So I think he can fly out. He won't go to America, of course, but I think he can do lots of things that he wants to do around the world now. He's free, so he might be quite pleased once he gets over the shock.
I can guarantee, and you'll tell me that I'm wrong, but I can guarantee that he will have made sure that the King, in return for this, will have financed the rest of his life 100%. But I don't think we're going to see him again. But I guess the point you're making, Angela, really well is if there's more sordid headlines to come, you know, they're going to come out anyway. But if he's been banished, then that less impacts on the royal family. Angela Levin, royal biographer, thank you very much indeed. Couple of minutes to 8. We're live across the UK. Loads of you trying to get on about the teachers wanting a 4-day week, about the doctors wanting a pay rise. Let's go to Crawley quickly. You can hear planes overhead. Paul, you're on breakfast. Good morning.
Hello, Jezza. How you doing, mate? Yes, it's a bit like public service, public and private. Junior doctors can get up to £175,000 a year, not a year, over their period of time from undergraduate to qualifying, OK? My nephew wanted to become an airline pilot when he was young. As a family, we raised the £135,000 it cost him to become a qualified pilot. He's now a first officer and maybe he'll become a captain in a few years to come. But that was all financed out of us, entrepreneurs in our own little family, all right? Doctors are getting paid by the taxpayers, by us. And it angers me enormously.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you for your call, Paul in Crawley. It's almost 8 o'clock. This is Talk With The Nation Comes to Speak. Are you annoyed with Starmer and Reeves? Do you think they should go? Would you buy them a Christmas present? If so, what would it be? What about Lammy? We need to end juries. Really? You didn't say that in 2025. The junior doctors want another 28%. School teachers want a 4-day week. The bin men in Birmingham want more than there is available. This country is on its backside and we're here to let you have your say on the state of this country and the news. 0344 499 1000. Send your voicemails, make your calls, and please do keep those texts coming. 87222. You can start your message with the word talk. Time now for the news at 8 on Talk Breakfast.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning, my friends. Just gone 8 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. Talk where the nation comes to speak. Your response, alarm clock Brits, to what's happening in the news today. Reeves and Starmer still under huge pressure. The head of the Office for Budget Responsibility forced out. Was he just the fall guy? That's what it says in the Mail. The fall guy for Reeves's budget lies. Starmer and her joined at the hip. Conjoined almost. Will they suffer the same fate? You don't seem to have much faith in them. David Lammy. Can't wait to speak to Isabel Oakeshott about David Lammy. The Justice Secretary today saying we should get rid of jury trials in the majority of cases. That's the way to deal with an 80,000 backlog. You might be interested to hear what he said 5 years ago. Junior doctors, they had 26% a year ago when Wes Streeting strode into the health department and said, I'll sort it out. They're back again. They want another 28.9% as they vow to wreck Christmas. I'll say they cost people's lives and shouldn't be given a penny more. And a big story coming out this morning calls for a 4-day week in schools to ease teacher burnout, which has really got you going. Gemma was a teacher in Staffordshire who rang the show earlier. This definitely got you going. Gemma again.
A teacher's day starts about 7:30 when they get to work.
Mm-hmm.
And then it probably finishes about 5:30 when they leave the car park to go home.
Mm-hmm.
So if you times that's what's that, 10 hours.
Yeah.
By 4, that's 40 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can have Friday off. But then you've got to work on Saturday as well to do the marking.
How long does it take to mark? Why does it take all weekend? Why can't you mark at lunchtime?
Are you talking about primary school teachers or secondary school teachers?
Any teacher. They always say to me, oh, I've got marking to do. I've got 6 bloody kids. I'd love a 10-hour day.
Jeremy, you've got 6 kids, right? So that's 6 kids. So how long does it take 6 kids to do their homework? Bearing in mind that the average, I think the government's guidelines is 2 hours a night in year 6.
Morning, Stuart.
Morning, Jeremy. Self-employed taxi driver here. Got up at 2:30 this morning. Don't know what sick pay is. Don't get any holiday pay. Don't go out, don't make any money. Sometimes you wonder what the point is getting up at that time in the morning. I'd be better getting the wife knocked up, getting another few kids and going on the sick, I think. But we crack on. But we're not in a good place as a country.
I think Stuart probably sums it up. I'd be better off not working, getting the wife knocked up and going on the sick. That is where we're at 8:05 in Great Britain on Tuesday the 2nd of December. We say a very good morning to Talk's international editor, a woman who always puts a spring in my step, and I then put my hat at a jaunty angle. Isabel Oakeshott, a very good morning.
Good morning. I can't believe this teacher story. I mean, are you serious? 4-day week to prevent burnout? Oh, my God.
The 4-day week is to ease teacher burnout. Campaigners have urged ministers to allow schools in England and Wales to pilot the 4-day week, arguing that shorter timetables could help tackle worsening teacher burnout, recruitment problems and falling retention rates.
I mean, I would actually move to something different and say maybe a 6-day week and they'd actually get their jobs done properly. I mean, we're really going in completely the wrong direction here with this stuff, aren't we?
Yeah.
Indulging the idea that you can be burnt out after doing a 5-day week. I mean, teachers, as we all know, have tremendous holidays, decent pension schemes. They're fairly well looked after generally. I'm not saying it's not a hard job, but then so are most jobs. You know, most people don't float around earning a lot of money for doing very little. It's not how it works.
Elizabeth Hill says, Jeremy, teachers do not mark homework. It's all done online now. My daughter is a vet. She works 12-hour shifts, often won't get a lunch break and has to work weekends as well. Jay says, in Brighton, how can teachers be under pressure? 6 weeks summer holidays, 3 weeks Christmas holidays, 2 at Easter and 2 half terms. Are they having a bleeding laugh? They get paid for being off more than they work. Alison, this is good. A 4-day week for teachers due to burnout. How about parents don't send kids to school still in nappies? How about the children are taught how to behave and not cause disruption? The parents aren't parenting, the nurseries don't or aren't allowed to discipline. Then the bad behaviours are carried through to senior school, university and work. What a fantastic mess of a world we live in, says Alison in South Wales. Anyway, Isabel, I want to throw a couple of things at you because more pressure this morning on Rachel Thieves, front of the Mail. The fall guy for Reeves' budget lies, Richard Hughes, the boss of the OBR. Don't condone that leak. Obviously, it was just part of a massive budget shambles, to be fair. He's gone, she survives. Starmer supports her. The two of them looking increasingly like conjoined failures. Can they survive? Surely not.
In a word, no. The question is, can they survive till Christmas? And I think they can probably stagger on. You know, they will be saved by recess and the parliamentary recess and everybody having their minds on the holidays. But I don't give them much longer after, within January, once everybody gets back. I think that the holiday season will be an absolute mass of plotting, and that they will be out before those May elections, or at least the process of getting them out will begin well before those May elections. I mean, there is a question as to whether a new Labour leader is going to want to own what is pretty certain to be an absolute political bloodbath in May. You know, if you're coming in and you're, whether it's Angela Rayner or Wes Streeting or Ed Miliband, frankly, do you want to actually preside over those? Do you want to be in charge with those elections, or do you want to start a little bit afterwards? So certainly the process to get rid of them will informally, I think, already be well underway.
Thought you'd love this new poll that we were handed an hour ago. Over a third of people think that Rachel Reeves exaggerated economic bad news in the run-up to the budget, but in an even bigger blow. Get ready to fill in the gap here, Isabel. In a big blow for Sir Keir Starmer, another one, has won an hour, Labour are now less trusted economically than blank blank. Liz Truss. I mean, it's not great for him, is it, this morning? That's a fact.
It's not great. I think I was saying on one of our other shows last night that I think it doesn't matter now what Keir Starmer or Rachel Reeves say. There is a sort of settled view in the nation that that budget was based on a lie. Mm-hmm. And you said it was a third of people, but actually I wonder whether another third of people just haven't paid it any attention at all. I think anyone who's remotely engaged in what's going on will say there was something deeply murky about the premise that budget was based on, and it has been incredibly damaging. And my own view is it's not recoverable for either of them.
I agree with that, and I think also lots of people pointing out to us this morning that actually, if you talk about this is government, these are MPs. If this took place in a private company in the private sector, she will be out on her backside 5 days. I don't care what anybody tells me. There would have been enough proof to have said, sorry, you're not up to it. And this great debate about, she's the best they've got, or she's out of her depth, or she's, linked to Keir Starmer. We're talking about the United Kingdom's finances. And when you look at the fear in her face and you look at his body language and see him trying to get through this, I think they're busted flushes. And I'm not, don't get me wrong, this is in no way a compliment to what came before, but that excuse has gone. The truth of the matter is the Labour Party have lied. Their manifesto was a fabrication and a tissue of made-up tales, and it's come home to roost. And what's come home to roost, surely, is that this Labour government is like every Labour government before them, which is tax anybody that's got anything at all or has achieved anything to give to people who probably don't deserve it. And in the end, when you've pandered to your union mates, the country's skint. And that's the truth, isn't it?
I think people are naturally focusing on the future for Keir Starmer and the future for Rachel Reeves. But actually, I think this is very, very serious for the wider party, for the whole party, actually. I mean, the one person who may actually have some plausible deniability, not that she's got any credibility on economics, is actually Angela Rayner, because she's out of cabinet. So she can plausibly say, I had nothing to do with this complete catastrophe of a budget. I'm just a backbencher. Had I been around, this would never have happened. Now, I don't think any of us will really believe that, but at least she has deniability. Whereas the whole of the rest of the cabinet can easily be drawn in. Just wait for the stories that say, for example, well, Ed Miliband was sent a memo about this budget and he knew about it too.
Can I make a very interesting point that this is really good. Has anybody seen Ed Miliband since the budget? No. I thought this last night. Not seen nor heard from. That probably speaks volumes.
Well, I think they're all pretty keeping their heads down, aren't they? Because they don't want to have to go out and defend what they know is pretty difficult to support. And I wonder whether we'll look back on this moment, a bit like the disastrous so-called mini budget, which was full of the right ideas and all approached the wrong way, as the point at which Labour really basically sealed its own political death warrant.
We'll move on from that, because we talk repeatedly on this station about incompetence in politics in general, certainly in this government. There is a person I want to talk about next who manages to go beyond the rails of incompetency to idiocy. I cannot, in my wildest imaginations, work out how David Lammy made it to Deputy Prime Minister and Justice Secretary. Today, David Lammy will tell the nation that courts clinging on to jury trials is a mistake. That age-old, be judged by your 12 peers in a cross-demographic, that's a safeguarding principle that every legal person will tell you is a good thing against judges being biased. He's getting rid of that. His answer to 80,000 cases on a backlog is to get rid of juries. That is what he is going to say today. Do you want to see what he said in 2020, Isabel Oakeshott and people? Have a listen, have a watch.
The jury system is fundamental to our constitutional arrangement. We should not use the coronavirus as a cover to abandon juries, which is the opportunity to be judged by 12 of your peers. Juries being replaced by judges and magistrates is effectively the establishment, rather than your peers who live in your community deciding what justice should be.
Isabel, what does he think then? I'm completely confused.
Ooh, that's really awkward, isn't it?
Yep.
That really is awkward. I'm really kind of uncomfortable about this because I don't trust the state. Now, I think we've got to ask a different question, which is why we have built up such a backlog in the first place. Why is there this backlog? It sure as hell isn't because there's a problem finding people to do jury service or because there's a problem with juries in general. The reason that there's a backlog, well, there are multiple reasons, and I'm not an expert on the subject, but there are so many inefficiencies built into the system.
Yep.
Why are police putting people on, they have something called, I don't know, pre-charge bail or something. People are left for months on end while the police dither about whether or not there's enough evidence to do anything with the cases. There are far too many of the wrong types of cases and inquiries, and these are stories that we cover all the time on Talk, totally unnecessary. Police involvement and court involvement in things that could be dealt with in other ways and should never get to the point where a jury would be involved anyway, because they should never be troubling the police or really be taken anywhere near as far as they have been. So the answer isn't get rid of juries. The answer is let's look at what are the blockages. Why is the system buckling under the strain, and tackle that much further near the beginnings, the origins of the problem.
I couldn't agree more. And I've just got some breaking news, and I want you to keep the camera on Isabel Oakeshott's face, because David Lammy, who I'm quite happy to say is an incompetent idiot, who 5 years ago said we should keep jury service, now says we should abandon, is the Deputy Prime Minister. He's just appeared on Sky, because he won't come on here, because they wouldn't play him that video. He's just... I can't believe this. Our Justice Secretary has just confirmed that 2 more prisoners, ladies and gentlemen, that have been released in error over the last 3 weeks. That's a total now of 91, her header in her hands, 91 prisoners freed by mistake between April and October since he became the Justice Secretary. Just snuck that into the end of the Sky interview. David Lammy, Mr. Incompetent, has just confirmed 2 more prisoners have been released in error. Could you come out of your cell, please, and go to... Oh, no. Oh, you've gone that way. You've gone the wrong door. You didn't go for breakfast. You didn't go to the exercise yard. You've gone down the road. Oh, well, that's another one. Mr. Justice Secretary, we've lost another 2. What is going on, Isabel Oakeshott? That is ridiculous.
Well, did it not emerge a few days ago that the government has also lost some 700 foreign criminals who are supposed to be deported? Have I got that figure right? 700?
Yeah. Where have they gone? Just disappeared.
I mean, what? They're foreign criminals. How can they just have been allowed to kind of melt away? And as we all know, the bar for being deported in our country is pretty damn high. So we can assume that those 700 have done some awful things. And yet they're just wandering around in our communities. I mean, the shambles surrounding this, well, it's just yet another example of why this government is not fit to govern. And yet, folks, we're stuck with them for another 3 or 4 years.
But are we? Are we? They brought the Liz Truss government down the markets. I don't think it'll be that long. I agree with Nigel Farage. This will be 18 months to 2 years. This cannot continue financially. Forget the silent majority. Forget all of that. Can I ask you, just to prepare me for a woman who's apparently furious with me, what do you make of teachers wanting a 4-day week? Do you think that's a good idea? Apparently it's because of marking. They get very stressed.
Well, we were just talking about that, weren't we, at the beginning of the programme? And I'm not surprised that our listeners are exercised by it, because I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. Let's just carry that through. If teachers are having a 4-day week, well, presumably that means the children are having a 4-day week, does it? Or are they to come into school without any teachers? Is that what's being proposed?
I've no idea. The world is getting madder and madder by the minute, and your brilliance in coming on and being part of it is much appreciated. Isabel, thank you so much indeed. 8:20 Talks international editor Isabel Oakeshott. Yeah, apparently she's furious with me. She's in Hampshire. She's called Laura Jane. Hello, Laura.
I'm furious that you've let Isabel go, because I wanted her to listen to what I had to say. And anyway, I'm furious. Look, I will start off saying you're right. There shouldn't be a 4-day week. I couldn't agree more. That's ridiculous. However, I retired from teaching because the bureaucracy that was coming in, that was stopping me from doing my job properly, and other people telling me. I was a primary school teacher. But I also gave up because I was working a 7-day week, apart from going to church on Sunday morning. It's not a question of marking.
How?
It's not a question. OK, so you prepare your day, don't you? You prepare your show, right?
Yeah.
You don't just come in and do it. So preparation is everything. You would you would be fired if you didn't prepare properly and if you didn't know what was going on in the world. Well, it's the same with teaching. I would have been fired if I hadn't prepared the curriculum. Each year group.
You can say that about anybody's job, love.
Yes,
with respect,
exactly.
come on. You can't. Let me put to you what Isabel just said. Are we then going to expect working people whose kids will not be going to school on a Friday to pay for childcare? Will teachers take a 20% pay cut because they're only working 4-day weeks?
No, Jeremy, you're missing the point. I'm trying to defend the fact that there is so much going on in a teacher's day. They can't do their marking in their lunch hour because they're doing other things. They might be seeing a child who needs extra help on their maths. They don't. I never had a lunch hour because I was always doing something, or I might have been, standing in the playground on playground duty.
Yeah.
The point I'm trying to make is that the bureaucracy that is involved in teaching nowadays is so much that you cannot do the proper job of teaching. So there's so much extra, for want of a better word, in inverted commas, work, bureaucracy, wokeness.
Red tape.
You cannot do the job properly. And yes, that makes it stressful. And I decided to retire and do something different. I'm retired now anyway. But what I'm trying to say is if they shake up the system, of course I want parents to be happy with my job. But I went into teaching and I was good at it. I didn't need someone else to tell me how to do it. All my children were home educated and they've all got really good jobs because I didn't want them to be in the school system, which I thought was C and then the last word is P. And I could not, I promise you, they are well educated, they've got good jobs. The eldest, he went to the Royal Ballet School and he's a dancer. The youngest is in some technical thing which I couldn't possibly explain, and the middle one is in acting agency. They all earn a salary and they were home educated because I couldn't cope with the system history, don't get me started on how you teach history.
I got a degree in history.
What?
I got a degree in history.
Yeah, well, I got a degree in English and drama, and then I went and did my 4th year in teaching. But the point being...
No, essentially, the point is this. You started this by saying you were furious, but you agree that actually teachers shouldn't do a 4-day week.
I'm furious with you for doing teachers down, because it is not the job that I went into.
I don't know many jobs you get 17 weeks holiday. Sorry, can't disagree with you. You can't say I'm wrong there. There are no jobs in the world, whether they are stressful or not, that give you 17 weeks holiday. That, and I'm not, you know, we're mates, Laura, but that is an absolute fact. That is what people who get up at 2:30 in the morning and do a 15-hour day, 5 days a week, and don't see their family would say to teachers. They would say, it might be stressful, but you do not get 4 months holiday.
I didn't take my 17 weeks holiday. First of all, I was a mum, so mums never get holidays. We had time to do other things with our children.
Yeah.
That's for a start. Christmas was probably the only one, and we had 2 weeks, and we had 6 weeks in the summer, and I did not take all of it off. Sometimes I went on a course to further my experience.
Well, I love you very much. Were you marking on Christmas Day or opening presents? What was the truth? Tell me the truth.
We were opening presents, and yeah, of course we were.
Good.
You know, you have to keep a
Turkey
balance.
or beef on... Oh, actually, I can do something light-hearted with you, because I said this earlier. You know those relatives that you hate, but you have to buy a Christmas present for? I was asking people what they'd buy Starmer or Reeves. What would you buy Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves?
They're P40.
Sorry?
They're P40.
Fives. See, teacher can't add up. Thanks very much indeed, Laura Jane. John, good morning.
Morning, Jez. John from Wolverhampton, part of Alarm Clock Britain. On my way down to Abergavenny this morning. Yeah, presents, Keir Starmer. I'd buy him a fire extinguisher. And as for Rachel Reeves, maybe a lie detector with plenty of spare batteries. Great show.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. Almost 8:30 on Tuesday, the 2nd of December. The stories you're waking up to are getting geared up for the day. Well, centre on Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, really. They're under pressure. The head of the OBR resigning yesterday over the budget fiasco, but still most of us are going, you lied, Reeves. How are you still there? But, of course, Keir Starmer comes out and defends her. That's one story people are talking about. The other is David Lammy, the Justice Secretary today, who's going to announce we need to end jury trials because there's a backlog. I know 5 years ago I said the complete opposite, and then he's hidden the other news. He's just announced that 2 more prisoners have escaped in the last 3 weeks, making 91 since he took power. 91 people have managed to get out of prison and escape since Labour took over. Junior doctors has got under your skin. They're striking for 5 days, 17 to the 22nd of December, being accused, I think quite rightly, of wrecking Christmas. They've already had 26%. God, the public sector, honestly. Can you imagine what you just, alarm clock Brits getting what they got 26%, now they want even more. Absolutely ludicrous. But the teacher thing is what's really got you going this morning. Calls for a 4-day week in schools to ease teacher burnout. You had Laura Jane there saying it's very hard. You have long days, you do stuff at lunchtime, you spend all weekend marking. Morning, Penny.
Morning, Jezza. This whole teachers 4-day week malarkey. How ridiculous. I'm sorry, they are bringing up the next generation of this country and they want a 4-day week. You know why the recruitment is so bad for teachers? Because no parents discipline their children anymore. They all try to be friends, plonk them in front of a tablet and just say, get on with it. They just don't quite get it, do they? They don't get it. Do they understand that they get, I don't even know how many weeks off during the year? They get like half the year off. Or at least that's what it feels like to everyone else in the country, and yet they're complaining about burnout. I've had 1 holiday this year. 1 holiday. 1, and it was 1 week long. Not 8 or 9 weeks that they get. I think it's disgusting. They should not have a 4-day week, and how dare they even think about asking it alongside the doctors wanting more money. I think all these junior doctors, I think they should all personally be arrested and put in jail for endangering the country. That's my thought on it. Anyway, good show. Have a good one.
This afternoon at 4 o'clock, debuting on Talk on Drive will be Penny, who I think is absolutely spot on. Great. If you open the Sun newspaper today, there is a fantastic article on page 12, and we're delighted to get a bit of an exclusive here. The man's name is Don Daniels. He's a bricklayer from Doncaster/Leeds. He's 36 years of age, and he made a gag which went viral. He basically said that he said that there are people on benefits. He said, I'd give up because I don't know much, but there are people on benefits relying on me to pay me my wages. This is an absolutely fantastic article. Don Daniels, 36-year-old bricklayer, who's now probably the most famous bricklayer in Britain. And where do we find him? Good morning, he's on Talk Breakfast. How are you, Don? How you doing?
Good morning, Jeremy. How are you?
Look at you in your car in your high-vis jacket. Right, first of all, no sympathy for you bricklayers. You're on about 600 quid a day, aren't you? What's going on now, man?
I wish we was.
What? Tell me this story. I've been all over the shop. Tell me what happened. You just posted something. What did you say?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to apologise to the nation because I actually voted Labour, so I was lied to just like the rest of the working class. I voted Labour because I felt there was for the working class. But now it seems the people on benefits are actually benefiting a lot more since Labour have come into power. So I just felt like a lot of my wages are now going to the benefit system a lot more than they was. Everything around me is going up. My gym membership is now going up. Bricklayers' wages are going down. Yeah, so I feel like I've been lied to by Labour along with the rest of the country.
It's really interesting, Don, as well, to hear that, because I think if we step back from it's easy to throw mud and all that, but if we step back and we look at the reality, I think so many people probably were duped. I am not in any way, by the way, pal, respecting or condoning the Tories at the end. I thought it was an absolute shambles, and I think the British public had stopped listening to them. But these people who are in power now lied. They've lied consistently. They talked about working people, as you quite rightly said. They talk about there will be no tax increases. It's about growth. It's about working people. What they have done is what every Labour Party in power has done for years, which is tax anybody and everybody and basically send a message, Don, which your article today in The Sun picks up on brilliantly, which is you're better off, and I'm not trying to be rude here to anybody, sitting on your backside at home, right, popping children out, right, fecklessly, rather than going out and grafting. You're a working man, I'm a working man, yours is like that, mine's like this. But the fact is, there are people ringing this station every single day now saying, why would I even bother working? It's pointless, I might as well sit on my backside. That can't be right, can it?
It can't be right, Jeremy, but it's exactly how Britain is. I call it Benefit Britain. I think we all do. Benefit Street, Benefit Britain. It's ridiculous. I know many, many people who are better off not working. Wow. But these people are obviously not looking for the right jobs. They're not getting the right training to get into higher paid jobs. It's ridiculous. It is. I would love to know how much of my actually tax goes where. I think it should be a breakdown at the end of the year. So 5% goes to the NHS, 5% goes to the public sector. I'd love to know how much actually goes to the benefit system. I don't mind paying towards pensioners. I don't mind paying towards people unable to work, because I might be in that position one day myself.
But that's the point. I mean, I've sat on here for ages and said the following, which is and I'm sure you're the same, Don, I can tell without even asking this, but I'm going to anyway, right? The welfare state, in my opinion, was the greatest invention in the modern world for a society to be able to look itself in the mirror and go, do you know what? We are going to help people who cannot help themselves. I am more than happy to pay my taxes for that. But I am not, and so is... I believe millions of people now are saying the same, which is, why would I bother scraping the barrel, paying my kids, doing everything right, never asking for a handout, going out at all hours of all days to pay for people who are taking the out of the system? Not, and of course what happens, Don, is everybody goes, we're talking about I'm not talking about the mentally and disabled, as you said, the people who can't work. I'm happy to support them, but we are surrounded, but I'm afraid, by people who are gaming the system, who are lazy and entitled and need kicking up the backside. I really believe it.
The benefit system it should be used simply as a safety blanket, and for those unable to work, mental disabilities, physical disabilities, people who have had terrible accidents. I am more than happy to contribute to those people. I could be in that position one day myself. I could have an accident. I need the safety blanket of the benefit system. But these people that are better off not working and choosing not to work, they should all be forced to work. They could go to employers. The universal credit should have a system set up with employers where the employers will take people on benefits for free.
Couldn't agree more.
They don't get no money. Yeah, so these people, they should be going to big businesses like I would take on lads. If you said to me, Don, I've got 10 lads for you, you don't need to pay them a penny. They're all coming from Job Centre. Yes, please. I'll take them all. And I guarantee those people would
Oh, what a shame. What a shame, what a shame, what a shame. Let's lose that. We'll try and get him back. But it is an amazing article. Don Daniels, my bricky gag went viral, but Benefits Britain is no joke. He says the budget is taking advantage of hard-working men and women and sending a message, which is, do you know what? In this country, you're probably off better not working and taking advantage. Don, a real pleasure. Sorry that didn't work. Really appreciate it. It's an exclusive in The Sun today on page 12, 25 minutes to 9 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. Let's go to South Yorkshire. By gum. Morning, Dave.
Morning, Jeremy. How are we doing?
Not bad. How are you, sir?
I'm sound, mate. I'm sound. I'm just ringing up about the teachers. I mean, my ex-missus was a teacher, and I actually used to do a marking for her.
Is that why she's your ex? Lazy old... Lazy. Got rid of her. I did her own marking, yeah.
It takes minutes to do. I used to do it on a Friday evening. I don't get the fact that they work long hours. I don't buy into that neither, because when I used to pick her up from school on a Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock, it was like Brands Hatching car park.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? I'm not having a go because we love you. Were you qualified to mark the kids' schoolwork, and why the hell didn't she do it?
Well, you see, I used to do it 12 per hour. I wasn't qualified to do the marking, no. She used to mark the first one and I used to copy it. That's all I need.
There are children all over South Yorkshire who have failed to ever get any qualifications, all because Dave marked their home.
You can lay that at my bed if you like, mate. I'm not bothered.
And did you... You're no longer with her? Was it amicable? Oh, Christ, we sound like we're doing the old show.
Yeah, no, it was years ago, this. I'm not... Yeah, no, that was years ago.
But you wouldn't send your kids to her, no?
No, I just don't understand why they need 4 days a week. It's not. I personally, from the experience of being with her at the time, it's not. It might be a stressful job, but it's not a particularly hard job.
So it would be fair, without wanting to launch into my other life, you didn't break up with her because she was a teacher who was overwrought and overrun by her job and had no time to show you any attention whatsoever because she was too busy marking rather than giving out.
No, it was my fault. I'm sure if you ask her, it was my fault.
Yeah, well, you're a man. Anyway, lovely. Good man. Dave, the Phantom Marker from South Yorkshire. Thank you very much indeed. This is Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I just heard a dulcet tones there of the one and only Alex Phillips on Drive this afternoon from 4, live and exclusive across the UK. This, of course, is the Home and Common Sense Talk, where the nation comes to say whatever it wants, and you are more than welcome to be involved on breakfast. 0344 499 1000. Voicemails or even notes. Jez, idiot, thanks. Slap my own hand. Calls and texts on 87222. Morning, Jez, says Paul Williamson. I do a 4-day week as part of a 4-on, 4-off shift. I get up at 4:45, walk the dogs, go to work, do 12 hours, 7 to 7. Most days I'm lucky to get 20 minutes undisturbed to myself. Come home and two of my four, my wife has dialysis when I get in and I'm up until approximately midnight. 4-day week for teachers, my... Jay and Harrow, good morning. How could your teacher on the programme earlier homeschool her kids? If she was a teacher, surely she'd have been in school defending teachers and what they did right. Morning, Jess. This is David Wybrow. I hope I've got that right, David. Teachers leaving at 5, really? My current wife works in a school on the management side, not the educational. She says that by 3:35 of the 120-odd teachers, 4 or 5 are left. At 3:32, it's like the start of the cannonball run with teachers leaving the car park. I dropped my wife off at 7 o'clock in the morning. I thought the reason teachers work from 8 to 5:30 and have the super long 13-week holiday was allow them to do this bloody marking and prep for their lessons. Why do they need another 39 days a year off? Finally, teachers all get lesson-free periods in their weekly schedule. Would it not be a good idea to do their marking then? Or an even better suggestion to everybody is what our last caller did. He was utterly unqualified to do kids marking, but he did it for his wife in the hope that their relationship would get better. But sadly, it ended in divorce. Good morning, Adrian.
Morning, Jezzo. It's Adrian from East Sussex. Teachers and 4-day working weeks. I mean, I'm 70, so our teachers worked 5-day weeks and they did a bit of marking, no doubt, which we didn't see. The one thing I do feel sorry for the teachers on, though, is that when I was a schoolboy, there wasn't all this crap. They didn't have assessments at key stage this and key stage that, and we had exams at the end of an academic year to see where you were. Other than that, you did education, and it wasn't full of global warming and history and Black History Month and all the other rubbish. Let's get back to the basics, the 3 R's, reading, writing and arithmetic. I'm sick of hearing of these Marxist communists. We need to shake this bloody country up. Good luck all.
There you go, Adrian on teachers. Love it. I'm loving you lot this morning. So involvement. Jez, Steve, another teacher on about the workload. But wait a minute, they have teaching assistants nowadays, but they never used to have those. Richie in Grimsby. Good morning, Jez. I work 5.5 days a week fitting truck tyres out in the cold. Put an out of hours call out rota. Some days we're so busy we never have a break. I have about 4 hours sleep. I'm not burnt out. I'm trying to eke out a living. It's very split this morning. Finally, Margaret. Doctors on strike, bin men on strike. I think my bloody phone's now gone on strike. I would buy Starmer a broom for Christmas. Not to stick where the sun don't shine, but to clear the bin bags that are bouncing up in Brum. Very good. Now, I just want to move on. Loads of different stories today. We've talked Reeves and Starmer. We've talked David the Liar Lammy. We've talked junior doctors. We'll continue to talk about teachers. You remember some weeks ago, the Maccabi Tel Aviv football fans, an Israeli team, were not allowed to come and support their team at Villa Park in the Midlands against Aston Villa in the Europa League. They were banned yesterday. This is shocking. Chief Constable Craig Guilford, giving evidence to the Select Committee, the Home Affairs Select Committee in the Commons, admitted using a fictitious game in the report that led to the ban on Israeli fans. They weren't even using video footage of a game that's relevant. This was Chief Constable Craig Guilford. Yes, this is appalling. Have a watch.
The Dutch commanders were unequivocal. They would never want to have Maccabi Tel Aviv playing in Amsterdam again in the future. That was what they said to our chief inspector. The ultras were very well organised, militaristic in the way that they operated. They attacked members of the local community, including taxi drivers, tore down flags, people were thrown into the river, and definitely the singing. And I think the question from one of your colleagues earlier about the no schools in Gaza, as the children were all dead.
Interesting, isn't it? So the question would be, was that decision made? And let me just say, there is sadly football violence among all sorts of fans, and there isn't any proof whatsoever that is permanently be laid at the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans' feet. Chief Constable Craig Guilford almost saying, we base a decision on what somebody else said that happened at some other game. Jake Wallace-Simmons, author, columnist, and a very good guy. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
Good morning. Very well.
This is outrageous.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the chief constable failed, sadly, to look at the facts. The facts are that Maccabi Tel Aviv, in the last 100 games, caused no significant trouble at all. Before the match in Amsterdam, there was a WhatsApp group locally in Amsterdam with 900 people on it calling for a Jew hunt, planning violence against the Israeli fans. When the Israeli fans came over, there was violence, mainly against them. Of the people thrown into the river, there was one who was Israeli, the only one who was Israeli, thrown into the river, not allowed to come out until he said free Palestine. There were 10 arrests. 9 out of those 10 arrests were local people, local thugs, attacking the Israelis, not Israeli fans at all. And so the picture is built up that actually the Israelis, although I'm sure some of them got stuck in, and football hooligans are from all nationalities, including Israelis, they were very much the victims in the overall picture. But it's been politicised ever since. You know, last week there was a match. Aston Villa played the Young Boys, a Swiss team, who are well known for their hooliganism. There was no petition, there was no ban of the fans, and there was outrageous levels of violence, including seats being torn up at Villa Park and hurled towards the pitch, and that game had to be abandoned due to that violence. So there does seem to be a certain kind of something else is going on here, isn't it? Perhaps it isn't so much about hooliganism. Perhaps it's about the fact that this is an Israeli and Jewish team, and that 70% roughly of the local people in Villa Park, around Villa Park, are Muslim.
It is astonishing. I mean, I've been quite vocal about anti-Semitism. I find any racism abhorrent. I've said that forever, and I will forever say it because that's etched inside me. However, It worries me is that as a nation, as a country, almost as a world, we don't see anti-Semitism in the same way as we see other racism, because I don't know if it's because Jews are white. I don't know. I'm not interested in that. I think that any form of it is appalling. I've said this story before. I have friends, Jewish friends, whose kids still can't wear their school uniform to go on the bus in North London. This has to surely be an example of people in authority making an assumption, and you look at the facts and you go, is this right, or is this blatantly anti-Jewish, anti-Israeli? It can't be fair. Your analogy there of the Swiss boys, young boys, is absolutely spot on. The game was delayed and brought back on, etc., because of violence, and not a squeak out of anybody from the Europa League or indeed from Aston Villa. I'm not laying this at the football club, I'm laying this at the police. And when you have a Chief Constable, Craig Kilford, yesterday squirming in front of the Home Affairs Select Committee, almost saying, well, you know, they were talking about another game, but we sort of thought this might happen. You could literally look him in the face and go, you're anti-Semitic, aren't you? It's totally and utterly unfair.
Well, I wouldn't be able to speak about whether he's anti-Semitic, but certainly he's under strong influence.
Well, he's the boss. He's the boss. Do something about it.
I think a big part of the problem is that it's been well documented that amongst the Muslim community, particularly Muslim communities in Britain that are not integrated into the mainstream, you know, in like I said, in the constituency around Villa Park is 70% non-white and self-described as predominantly Muslim. They describe themselves as both diverse and predominantly Muslim. I'm not sure both of those things can go together, by the way. But anyway, you know, there's a well-documented phenomenon of high levels of anti-Semitism amongst Muslim communities in Britain. And it does seem as if the local police are coming under extremely heavy pressure from community elders, community representatives in that local community. And it's influencing their decision-making because they don't want trouble to be caused by Muslim thugs on the streets. And we saw that even when that game went ahead, without any Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, the police still had to deploy 700 officers with dogs, with drones, with horses to cope with the violence coming from this local community. Now, the fans weren't even there. If you're trying to tell me that all the violence is going to come from the Israeli fans, then you ban the Israeli fans, then why have you got to deploy 700 police officers with dogs, drones and horses to cope with violence on the streets? Why are there these anti-Semitic posters going up all round the Villa Park, put up by masked thugs in the middle of the night? Something else is going on here. The police were informed in their intelligence, allegedly, by a group called the Hind Rajab Foundation, which is an anti-Israel group started by somebody who was formerly in Hezbollah. That group gave the police, allegedly, some of the intelligence they used in this decision-making. The whole thing stinks. Clearly, the police are being lent upon by anti-Semites of different sorts, and they're trying to justify their decision in terms of public safety. It stinks.
Couldn't put it any better myself, and really important, Jake, to actually have that. And the reason I said about the copper is, you know, if you go with politicians or leaders of companies, if you're in charge, you have to be responsible for the attitude that prevails. Really great to have you on, my friend. Thank you so much indeed. Further proof that anti-Semitism, sadly, is alive and well in this country. 10 to 9. This teachers thing is driving you absolutely mad, as is the doctors' strike. Very quickly, Jeff Hastings, doctors, go.
Hello, Jeremy. Good morning to everyone there. Yeah, my point was, it was a lot earlier. I'm surprised I'm on the show today. Basically, I'm going to backtrack a bit. What it is I took my dog to a vet's once, and they wanted an astronomical amount just for an introductory, you know, like look at him. And I said, why is it so expensive? And they said, because of what we invested in our training. So with the doctors, I'm not on anyone's side here, but some of these doctors, they've spent, I would believe, they've spent a lot of money in getting to where they are, and they want it back, and the government aren't letting them get it back. That's why they're on strike. As far as the guys and girls outside the hospitals, they've got to have a pay rise. They're a very important part of our society.
They've had a pay rise, 26%.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're just trying to clutch back at what they've invested.
Nurses got 5%, though. That's the problem, isn't it? You see, we live in a land under a government that wants to pay its union buddies pay rises, and then everybody wants the same. I take your point about how much they spend. I said something earlier, I don't know what people think. I maybe would make it less expensive for them to train, hear me out, in return for a written contractual agreement that they would stay in the NHS for 10 years rather than disappear off abroad or to the private sector in return. Really appreciate the call. That was Jeff in Hastings. To the ad break on Paul on teachers. Hello, Paul.
Morning, Jeremy. It's Paul up in Hartlepool. My wife was a teacher for 40 years, frontline, head of year 3 times, and she sat here and she's just shaking her head against people that are wanting to go for a 4-day week. Teachers get around 17 weeks a year off. You can go Tom and Dick when you want to recharge your batteries, and now they want a 4-day week. It's absolutely absurd. Does anybody in the public sector in this country actually want to work? Great show. Good morning.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, goodness me, what a busy morning. 4 minutes to 9, we're live across the UK. Morning, Jez. When people go on strike, it's a last resort because they're frustrated, sad and unhappy. Why the hell do I then see junior doctors smiling and laughing like they're on their jollies, John in Blackpool? That's because they've already had 28%, John, and they want another 28%. Matt, good morning. I'm a teacher, and the unions do not speak for me. Please, can you talk about the teacher unions wanting 4 days and not your average teacher? Time for sport. Marky, push the button. Marky, push the button.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. From the Sun.
If Mark the button pusher, worked for British Rail, we would be announcing Mind the Gap. Charlie Wyatt from the Sun. A very good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right, not bad. Looking the part, sir. So this is really interesting, the sport today, because, I mean, You know, I mean, it's always the case that, you know, we've had a couple of weeks of people doubting Arne Slot at Liverpool, then he beats my team on Sunday. Now, Thomas Frank is in the firing line. Tonight, is it tonight they're playing Newcastle or tomorrow?
They are. Big game for them, yeah, big game.
Big game. Doubting Thomas is the headline on the back of Sun Sports. Spurs star's frustrated with his tactical confusion. He says, I'm confident I have the backing of the owners. He's only 15 games in, man.
I know, I'm not sure he has the backing of the fans, and that's a real shame because I really like Thomas Frank, and he's come in and big job. He's done a great job at Brentford, and he's finding it really difficult. And the fans are already starting to really par pressure on him. The players are concerned. I hope he really sort of avoids this, sort of gets through this, because Tottenham can't keep changing managers. And I think it's a good thing that they got rid of Daniel Levy, their long-standing chairman. I think he was the problem. So now they can sort of move forward. So I hope he sticks with it, but it's a really tough game at Newcastle.
It's very difficult when they talk about Newcastle on a run, and I'd back Newcastle to get a result. It's difficult when you try and change philosophy. They were all out under Postecoglou, weren't they, Spurs? Attack, yeah. Win 4-3. That wasn't enough because he lost too many games. Thomas Frank, as a coach, is a bit more defensive, and so it will take time. The other main news, Man City, this is unbelievable. Man City is to start a run of 10 matches in 37 days against Fulham. Can you imagine teachers doing that? They want 3 weeks off. Shocking.
What makes me laugh is that Guardiola and all these managers moan, yet they've got, you know, huge squads of players on huge money, and they moan about the fixtures. Well, the reason they're in so many fixtures is because they're in so many competitions, which is making the club and them so much money. So I really struggle with sympathy for these managers that do consistently complain about playing football matches when they've got, say, a squad of 25, 30, and they can also pick the cream of all the youngsters they have in their academy. So I just wish they'd shut up and get on with it. And in another news, by the way, I'm off to Washington this afternoon. We've got the World Cup draw, so it's going to be the Donald Trump show for a couple of days. So we've got all that fun.
Well, make sure you take your passport. You won't be allowed in. You'll be an illegal. Newcastle or Spurs tonight? Who wins?
Draw.
You what?
Draw. 1-1.
Ooh, Charlie, now I see a Newcastle win. We'll have that out tomorrow. Enjoy DC. Thank you so much indeed. Charlie Wyatt from The Sun. Sun Sport, the only place you need to go to get the very latest. It's almost 9 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Loads of you wanting to get on. We've got Nigel Evans, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, coming up next as we talk Reeves and Starmer. What would you buy him for Christmas? Bugger all. We'll talk Lammy the Liar. We'll talk the doctors who want another pay rise and the teachers who just want to work 4 days a week. I know it's hard. I know it's difficult. The rest of them don't. Thanks for tuning in. 87222 for your text. The news at 9 is next on Morning Glory.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are, my friends. Just gone 9 o'clock. Tuesday, December the 2nd. Yes, 23 days to Christmas. We had a bit of fun earlier. Reeves and Starmer under pressure because she's a liar. He seems to be clinging on as well. We were asking how long do you think they'll survive? And then we said, what would you buy them for Christmas? You know those annoying relatives that you don't want to buy a present for, right? But you have to. And great this morning. Susie, Jez, I know what I'd buy Starmer and Reeves. I'd buy them a Tim of Brasso for their brass neck. That's what I'd buy them, yeah. Loads of you. We'll take some of those 87222. You're waking up to them too. There's the thought. They're under pressure, quite rightly. The other big story is David Lammy. David Lammy, the man who is today coming out across all news networks, not this because he won't talk to me, saying that he believes that the way to get over the 80,000 trial backlog in the United Kingdom, the justice problems that we have, is to get rid of juries. Forget that this safety net of 12 people, your peers from all demographics, will be involved in the process. No, we're going to get rid of them. It's all going to be about judges, so the most important ones can be jury trials. Now, I'm going to take you through a bit of a journey. That's what he's saying today. This is what he said in 2020, people. David Lammy.
The jury system is fundamental to our constitutional arrangement. We should not use the coronavirus as a cover to abandon juries, which is the opportunity to be judged by 12 of your peers. Juries being replaced by judges and magistrates is effectively the establishment, rather than your peers who live in your community deciding what justice should be.
That was your Justice Secretary, ladies and gentlemen, 5 years ago, saying we should indeed keep juries. Your Justice Secretary today says we shouldn't. Nigel Evans, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, probably in a... Whereabouts are you, Nige? Come on.
I'm at Heathrow, but I've just come back from somewhere as opposed to going off to somewhere. So, yeah, I was in Tel Aviv yesterday.
Good man. I don't want to be unfair on a personal level, but how the hell, in the name of the sweet Lord, did David Lammy make it to Deputy Prime Minister of the United Kingdom? The man is a joke, isn't he?
Yeah, well, that would be one of the questions on Mastermind, which, of course, he famously appeared on, and he would not even be able to answer that himself. So it is what it is. But, do you know, you've just played those words that he spoke just 5 years ago, where he said how important jury trials were. And if you were to get him in the studio somehow or other, you'd have to kidnap him and bring him in, clearly, Jeremy. But nonetheless, if you did get him in, he would come out with a form of words. He'd make a noise in the studio, ignoring what he said 5 years ago and saying how important it was because they've got such a big backlog, and how important it was to, to get justice done, because if justice isn't done, then nobody's getting, and all that sort of rubbish. The fact is that they are doing exactly what they want now. They're riding roughshod, not just over the judicial system, but over the economy of the country. There used to be this old joke when I was a kid. It said, how do you know if a politician is lying? And the answer was, their lips are moving. And the problem now is that it's turned from a joke into actuality.
Well, now, this is amazing. And the reason I started with the jury thing is that's what he wanted today to be about. But then it transpires an hour and a half ago, Nige, that he basically went on Sky and then the BBC to admit that firstly 2 prisoners had been escaping in the last 3 weeks, and then it was 12. I'm going to play you two. This is our Justice Secretary, the man who wants to get rid of juries, although he doesn't. More importantly, prisoners are escaping willy-nilly. This is Lammy just after 7 o'clock on Sky News. Have a listen, peeps.
Are you aware of any more violent offenders or sex offenders?
There have been releases in error since I made that statement, but I want to convey that the trend this year is fortunately downwards.
Can you give me a number on how many?
2.
There's been 2?
There have been 2.
And are they still at large, or have they been apprehended?
Sophie, it's important that I release that data in the way that it's always been released. And it's also important that I work with police where someone is at large, and sometimes, because the police are about to nab somebody, they actually don't want me to discuss it. And it's important that they get on.
But are those two people still at large or not, are they?
There are 2 people currently at large.
So that was Sky, Nige, at 7:10, 2 still at large. 20 minutes later, Calamity Lammy appeared on the BBC. Have a watch.
I made it clear in Parliament that on a paper-based system, there will always be human error, and there has been a human error for all of my lifetime. Until we move to a completely digital system, I think it's impossible to rule out error. But there has been a spike. It's on a downward trajectory. There have been 12 since I made that statement. At the moment, 2 are currently at large.
So 2 have been released by mistake or are at large, or 12 have been... Look at it. Honestly, Nige, how do you believe a word that comes out of that man's mouth?
Well, as I said, sadly, it's not just him. It seems to me that the entire cabinet are in on it. The only person who wasn't in on it was Richard Hughes, the OBR chief, and he resigned last night. I mean, it is absolutely bonkers. And the real problem is, you know, there's always a problem with trust between politicians and the people. But it's gone to a new low now, Jeremy. And I'm just wondering that at the next general election, whatever manifestos people come out with, the people are going to scratch their heads and say, why should we believe any of you? It really is bringing the trust of the people about politicians and about politics generally to a new low. And I've been, you know, wandering around Parliament for 32 years. I've been in politics for about 50 years of my life, and I've never seen it as bad as it is now.
It's really interesting. I always quote this guy who texted a few weeks ago saying, what's changed in this country is the silent majority have woken up, and any politician of any party needs to understand that the BS that's seemingly been fed to us for years is no longer right. There was a poll this morning. We talk about, you know, not believing people. Pressure overnight, more pressure on Rachel Reeves. How much did she lie about the budget? How much did Starmer know? The head of the OBR, as we hear, Richard Hughes, the fall guy for Reeves's budget lies. Have you heard about this poll this morning? See if you can fill in the 2-word gap at the end. Nobody else has been able to, but I know how intelligent you are, Nige. Over a third of people think Rachel Reeves exaggerated economic news in the budget, but in a massive blow to Keir Starmer, a majority now say that Labour are less trusted on the economy than blank blank.
The Conservatives?
Very good. No, Liz Truss, actually. No, Liz
Truss.
Liz
Truss, but she was a Conservative.
But extraordinary, but not extraordinary when you, as you just said about manifestos, how are we supposed to believe anything that is said to us, essentially?
Yeah. No, it's a real problem, and clearly we didn't get really anywhere yesterday in Parliament trying to get any closer to the bleeding reality is that Rachel Reeves, and she's actually tied the Prime Minister into this, have colluded in order to tell the public that the economy, and this is really hard to believe, that the economy was way worse than it actually was, in order for them to raise taxes to spend it on Benefit Street. The only people who were putting out the bunting during the budget were those on Benefit Street, because they've done rather well of it. Yep. But the average earner is now way worse off. People who actually get up, do a job and pay their taxes are worse off by the rate of £18,000 than those on Benefit Street. You couldn't make that one up either. You know, it's a real body blow for those people. Alarm Clock Britain, as you called it, on Talk Radio. Alarm Clock Britain are the ones that keep Britain going. They're the ones who pay their taxes, and now they are worse off than those on Benefit Street.
Loads in the news today. I want to throw this next one at you. Junior doctors have, I think, rightly been accused of trying to wreck Christmas. I personally would make it illegal for them to strike. People don't like that. They're going to do another 5-day strike from the 17th of December. They want 26%. This is on the back of 28.9% from Wes Streeting when the Labour Party came into power and said, the Conservatives didn't speak to them. We'll sort it out. He now looks like a prized chump because these people have come back. I get stories. They work an 80-hour week, blah, blah, blah. I've said, don't know what you think, mate, you know more than me, I would perhaps make their training cheaper and more funded by this country so that they don't if you like, get so into debt. I would make them sign a contract that says they stay within the confines of the NHS for a minimum of 10 years so that we get value for money. I think it is a disgrace. I think it will cost people their lives, and I think you can lay it firmly at the political ideology of the BMA.
Yeah, I'd sign up to that, and I'd also make it illegal, as you say, to strike. This is life and death matters, and they're there to save lives, not put them in jeopardy, and that's clearly what's going to happen over the Christmas period. So I'd add that into their contract as well.
Let's see what Sarah says about junior doctors. Sarah, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Can't believe my ears this morning. Some of these calls, teachers who educated their own children but still managed to teach full time. Not sure how that worked. And then was it Jeff from Hastings saying, oh, the doctors deserve a pay rise to pay off what they've paid for the... Well, you know, maybe he's right. Maybe their degree should be paid for and their training, but then they should be tied into the NHS for a certain amount of time if that happens. My daughter is a paramedic. She had to pay for her degree. She's in debt and paying that back. And, you know, she's one of the key people that gets the sick people to hospital in the first place. But I don't see everybody crying out for a 29% pay rise for paramedics or for nurses. You know, come on, wake up, people. This is bloody ridiculous. Sorry to swear, but I've really had enough now. Great show anyway.
Couldn't agree more. Not about the show, about what she says, Nigel. There's the point. Paramedics got 3.6%, nurses got 5%. What divine right do junior doctors have to think? And probably the government will bend over and give them what they want, I suspect. But it's not sustainable. This is... You and I are old enough to remember the late 70s, where they gave 30% to everybody and we ended up on our backside. Look at them. Look at them out there ranting and wanting... The public sector needs to be utterly, utterly cut back on. Since... What's that banner say? 28%. Gee, I can't be doing with it, mate.
No, well, as you say, they asked for a huge amount and got it as soon as the Labour government got elected. And to think that they were going to be satisfied with that, I mean, the bleeding reality, Jeremy, is that if you pay them again, they're going to come back again. And now they know, thanks to the OBR, that the government's sitting on $4 and a bit billion, more than they owned up to just before the budget. So they'll know there's money there. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we get the teachers and the tube drivers and train drivers looking as well at the pot of cash that they know now exists. You know, they'll all want it. And the fact is, the government looked really weak post the election when they gave all these huge increases, which is basically taxpayers' money, to the union barons who were the ones that helped support them during the election. And they're now coming back again and again and again. How about trying something novel, which is allowing those people who get up early in the morning, work many hours, some of them as well putting their own money into their own businesses as well. How about allowing them to keep more of their own money? How about that? Something novel.
It is novel. Can I don't know the name of this gentleman. Christian will let me know. The guy that writes our tags, that has got to be... Do you know what his name is? No? Cal deserves a shout out here. National Elf Service. That is absolutely legendary, Cal. I love it. National Elf Service. Nigel, the other big story of the day, and you touched upon it there, calls for a 4-day week in schools to ease teacher burnout. Watch Nigel's face. Campaigners have urged Bridget Phillipson, the one who looks slightly bitter at having lost the deputy leadership of the Labour Party, to pilot 4-day working weeks, arguing that shorter timetables could help tackle worsening teacher burnout, recruitment problems and falling retention rates. Now, I should give both sides. I've had teachers on saying it's very, very hard. We have a lot of marking to do, and we start at 8 o'clock and we don't finish till 7, and then we have to do marking all weekend, and nobody understands the stresses and strains. We've had other people on saying, are you winding me up? You get 17 weeks holiday and the car park's like Cannonball Run at 3:32. Where do you stand on this? This is outrageous, isn't it?
Yeah, it is outrageous. My goodness me, I remember the 3-day weekend at Ted Heath.
Yeah.
At least that was during a strike. No, the reality is you've got 16,000 millionaires plus who've left the United Kingdom, right? So they now are doing no-day weeks in the United Kingdom. You've then got an increased number of people because unemployment's gone up every month since Keir Starmer came into power. So there's a ton more people now doing no-day weeks. And then looking at the 18 to 24-year-olds, a net 187,000 of them have gone to live abroad. And so they're doing no-day weeks in the United Kingdom as well. I mean, none of this really adds up, and that is the real problem, because somebody at the end of the day has got to pick up the bill. We just simply can't afford it. Let's have a little bit of reality creeping into the situation in this country. We are on our knees, and people who are working are the ones who are being punished day in and day out, and they deserve a rest. You know, as I said right at the beginning, Jeremy, these are the people who are working. And the government doesn't have any money. All they have is taxpayers' money.
They do seemingly have money to spend on ludicrous situations, and seemingly the British people would well argue, many of them, they spend it on things not, I hate using this phrase, but I have to, seemingly not on the indigenous population or people who live within the confines of the law or people who just graft and do what's right by their families. They spend it on illegal migrants. They spend it on, you know, people who commit crime, trying to find some reason. They spend it on the wrong things. And when you hear, when they find billions here or millions there, and this is what I'm always going on about with politicians. I don't know whether Starmer and Reeves are so bolted together that they sit in 10 or 11 Downing Street crying, going, it's all over, or they're that stupid they think they can get away with it. But the groundswell of opinion in my mind in our country is that people have had enough of, the BS that's being fed them.
Yeah, I think the tipping point has already been reached now, and people have had enough. You talk about a contract with teachers. How about a contract with the British people, which basically says when we stand on a manifesto, we're actually going to stick to our words. We will keep our promises. When we say taxes do not need to go up, they will not go up. And that we will ensure that we are not going to spend 30-odd billion on the Chagos Islands. We are going to ensure that people who do go out and work are going to keep the lion's share of their own money. How about that? You know, a novel contract with the people. But I think people are really fed up, and it's going to be a real issue. I mean, the vast majority of people, from what I can make out and the ones that I talk to, they want an early general election.
Yep.
Starmer is unlikely to accept that.
I think he'll be out, Nige. I think he'll be out, mate. I can't see it lasting.
The reality is as well, Jeremy, we have to remember only 33.7% of the people voted for him. It's only because of the quirks of the British electoral system that he's got such a huge majority. But he is confusing his parliamentary majority with a mandate in the country. He does not have a mandate in the country. And also, if we listen to the promises that he made during the general election, he certainly doesn't have a mandate to do the things that he's doing, including abolition of jury trials. He certainly doesn't have that, or putting up people's taxes like the national insurance, the freezing of the thresholds, which they said they would never do because it would hit working families. That's exactly what they've done. And then when Rachel Reeves said after the last budget, that's all. I don't need to come back.
I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back.
I'm not coming back. In asking for an extra 26 billion, and when confronted with it, she says, "Well, it wasn't as large as last year's." My goodness me, what's going to happen next year if she's still in post?
Couldn't agree more. Couple of things, because you're a man who's quicker. How's the book going, by the way?
Still 25 chapters, but it starts again in January when I go back to Spain.
If I'm not in that book, you're broadcasting.
You'll have a chapter, don't worry.
Fantastic. To finish, because you think quickly on your feet, and we love you for it. Earlier on, just because I was trying to get through the tedium of
Liz Truss
and stuff.
The answer.
What?
Liz Truss, that's the answer.
No, better than that. You know, at Christmas, when you have to buy a present for somebody you don't like in the family, you know, an annoying uncle or a granny that doesn't speak anymore, I asked the good listeners of Talk, what would you buy Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves for Christmas? We had some amazing ones, some pretty rude ones. What would you buy? Matt Vickers said a backbone. What would you buy Keir Starmer, Nigel Evans?
Well, it goes for both of them, really. I would buy them a one-way ticket to the northwest of England, where I represented a seat there for 32 years, so he can get out of his Westminster bubble, both of them, and they can listen to the people of constituencies like the Ribble Valley, or indeed Hyndburn, which used to be a very, very strong Labour area, Burnley. I call them the salt of the earth, the people who actually do get out of bed, do work hard, and it's about time that they had the opportunity to have a chat with Keir and Rachel, maybe in a pub, if any pub will let them in after what they've done to the hospitality industry. I mean, literally, I would love to be a fly on the wall in a pub when the locals get an opportunity to speak power to truth.
Listen, mate, we love you.
Truth to power, rather. Truth to power.
Yeah, we love having you on. The book's going to be a bestseller, and you're going to end up... Yeah, we want you back in the Commons. Nigel Evans, legend, thank you very much indeed. Let's go to Lancashire quickly. Peter, you're on Talk Breakfast. What you got, kiddo?
Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning.
I'm from Clitheroe, Lancashire, Nigel's former constituency.
Oh, right.
What I would buy the terrible twosome is a one-way ticket to the Chagos Islands.
Yes.
Keep up the good work.
You're very kind, Peter in Lancashire. Paul, good morning.
Good morning, Jezza. This teacher's 4-day working week malarkey. I think I don't know the details, but I think there's a general misconception about working a 4-day week. There seems to be an assumption that everybody gets Friday off, and that's not the case. I had a job where I worked a 4-day week, and sometimes you get Monday off, sometimes you get Tuesday off, sometimes you get Wednesday off, etc. So there is still a 5-day service. So I wouldn't imagine it would mean that kids get Friday off. That's not the idea. It's just a condensed working week, and the service has to remain the same as it should do. So just throw that in the mix, Jezza. All the best. Cheers, Paul, Birmingham.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
9:25, you're live across the United Kingdom. Julia Hartley-Brewer, the Queen of Westminster, is here from 10 o'clock this morning. She just straight into the studio. We're looking forward to that. In a tick, Chris McGovern, Chairman for Campaign for Real Education. Can I just say thank you? The response to these teachers and doctors has been phenomenal. M. Goff. I don't know whether that's Michael. I don't know idea. Jeremy, my daughter-in-law is a teacher at a secondary school in Nuneaton. On Sunday, she informed me and my wife that she was having Monday off for teacher training. But she wasn't. She was going to the beauticians for hair and eyebrows and then going shopping as there was no training or update scheduled. She works no additional hours, is in just before 9 a.m. and out at 3 p.m. As for marking, she does it in lesson time whilst the pupils watch videos from their laptops. Teachers get it easy. That'll be a fun family meet-up next time. Andy in West Brom, good morning, my friend. Just a thought, are the teachers happy to get paid for just 4 days' work, Jez? Because that could save us a fortune. Maybe we could, in the end, afford some batteries for Rachel Reeves's calculator, which would be a lovely Christmas present. Chris Smith, good morning. I've spent thousands that I will never get back. I work for myself. I paid a lot in tax. I created wealth. You invest in the future. You are not going to be guaranteed to get it all back. Tell the infantile doctors to do one. Reg Gardner. Is he a gardener or is that his name? I'm a Villa fan and I won't go to Villa anymore because of the tension around the stadium when you're going in. I would much prefer it if Villa got themselves a new ground away from that part of Birmingham because it's actually scary on a Saturday afternoon. This is response to the story about that European game about Maccabi Tel Aviv and how the Israeli fans were indeed banned. Good morning, Hayden.
It's Hayden from Grimsby. Reference the no jury trials. It all sounds good on paper, but where are they going to put all these people if they start bringing all this backlog forward and some people end up going to prison? Where are they going to put them? Because we ain't got any spaces now. Maybe that'll be more people that are released early, like today's news. Lammy is a complete joke, needs to go and take the rest of his cronies with him. The government is an absolute disgrace.
I think we'll all agree about that. So, almost 9:30. This call for a 4-day week in schools to ease teacher burnout has got you going. We say a very good morning to Chris McGovern, chairman for the Campaign for... This man's proper. Morning, Christoph. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Goodness me, this has probably created more response than even the junior doctors' strike, and that's going some. So calls for a 4-day week in schools to ease burnout. Campaigners have urged ministers, well, Bridget Phillipson, to allow schools in England and Wales, Chris, to pilot this 4-day week, arguing that shorter timetables could help tackle worsening teacher burnout, retention problems and rates and recruitment issues. Your thoughts?
Well, it's a vote of no confidence in the teaching profession, for sure. Look, I taught for 35 years, Jeremy, and yes, it's a very tough job, but I have to say I found it an energising job. And I think good teachers, and there are plenty of those around, they feel energised by being with kids. You have to like the job. It's a vocation. The idea that it's going to be better for children if we have a 4-day rather than a 5-day week is, of course, a nonsense. We do need to do what's best for the children. If anything, we need to extend the school day so that children have time for extracurricular activities, sport, drama, and so forth. And, you know, I taught much of my career in large, comprehensive, 2,000 in one case, big schools, but I ended my career in the private sector. And in the private sector, we worked 7 days sometimes, and certainly worked 6 days, and we did a lot of time with the children. So the idea of cutting back time for children is entirely wrong. It's not. Teachers get 13 weeks holiday, for heaven's sake. So we want dedicated teachers who've got a vocation and who are committed. If they want to go to the hairdressers, there shouldn't be a teacher.
Let me read you something which I think is really interesting, which is where the frustration comes from. You see, you'll have teachers ringing me this morning saying, you've no idea how much marking I have to do. And then you'll have people ringing and going, hold on a minute, you're in a warm classroom getting 17 weeks holiday. Then you'll have teachers going, but the stresses and strains. Rob is a trucker. He says, Jez, I've been a trucker for 20 years. I only work when the day ends in a Y. Last night, after a 13-hour day, I parked up in a lay-by, no facilities, no home comfort, a cold water wash and teeth brush this morning at 4 a.m. I won't be home, Jez, until Friday. Must be a really nice feeling working in a warm classroom and going home to a hot meal each night. My body is worn out and frankly it's a struggle getting out of bed every morning in the cold and miserable of the winter. But I do it because I do my bit and I am supporting my family. Why can't people stop bloody moaning? I get that, Chris. You must as well.
Yeah, well, we need to stop feeling sorry for ourselves. Look, Jeremy, there are many great teachers out there who work incredibly hard, who love the job and who are doing a brilliant job for us all. But there are also malingerers and people who want an easy time. And in the unions in particular, and look, I was a trade unionist myself. I sat on the TUC. I'm not against unions, but they're too often looking to make life easier for the teachers rather than improving the education for our kids. Our kids are the unhappiest in Europe, according to the Children's Society. We've got a real problem in our schools.
It's a really interesting point you made, because you know this other story this morning about junior doctors. I just happened to say earlier that I rarely hear about a junior doctor talking about the facilities or the working conditions or the service they're being able to not apparently provide. All I hear about is, I'm in debt, I want 26%. Would it be fair to say that the teachers would perhaps get a more favourable response if they talked about what you're talking about, which is, I'm in this to do best by kids who are missing out, rather than I'm burnt out, I want more money and I want more time off?
Yeah, and the problem is, too many teachers, perhaps still a minority, go into teaching as the point of least resistance, and they find it very tough. It is a tough job. But like nursing, like being a doctor, or should be like being a doctor, it's a vocation. You need to be committed, and also you need to be good at the job. Look, if you're a good teacher, Jeremy, you don't have many problems in the classroom. You find the job uplifting. I mean, it sounds strange to say to you, look, this is a job. It doesn't actually burn you out. It lifts you up. You go home in the evening, you've done a great job. The kids are great. The parents are great. If you're doing a good job and you're good at it, it's a fantastic job. The ones who are moaning are the ones who aren't very good at the job.
Is it harder now? Is it harder because of how the world has changed? Let's give some credit where credit's due. Is it harder to be a teacher, to enact discipline, that there's so many things that you have to follow, that they're losing the will or the knack or whatever?
It's certainly harder, I think. And I think the problem stems back to a lot of it to classroom discipline. I think teachers feel a bit isolated. They don't feel they've got the support of the senior management, and the senior management don't feel they've got the support of the government and of parents sometimes. We need a revolution in our classrooms, and we should start not by tampering with the national curriculum. We should start by saying at the age of 14, children either go along a vocational pathway or an academic pathway, scrap the GCSE. Let's think about a national curriculum to the age of 14 so that these kids have a sense of purpose in life. If you're teaching English literature to 15 or 16-year-olds on a Friday afternoon and they're not interested and they can't read it much anyway, it's a waste of time. Teach them about roofing or plumbing or electricity.
Let me tell you a quick story which for me would sum up education, and I'm old and past it, right? My son is just 16 and wants to be a golf pro, right? And I think he's every chance of doing it, right? He got into this golf college and was told in unequivocal terms that he needed to pass English and maths, otherwise there was no choice. He'd have to do retakes, blah, 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 and just wasn't switched on. So I got him a tutor. And I got him a tutor from the local golf course who I knew was a deputy headmaster. And he walked into the house and he went, H, I'll make a deal with you, yeah? He said, if you teach me how to chip and putt, I'll get you through English and maths. And you could see, seriously, switch straight on past all 7. I tend to think that teachers now are so rigidly defined, maybe by... I said about broadcasting. Broadcasters are so scared of losing their jobs, they forget to do their bloody jobs. I suspect, in credit to certain teachers, that is a point. But I don't think you're going to get sympathy when they go, well, I know we get 17 weeks, but we're burnt out. Because your average alarm clock Brit, Chris, who's been at it since 4 o'clock this morning, is going to go, are you having a laugh? That's not acceptable.
Yeah, and yeah, that's probably true. And look, I'm a teacher, and I've got great sympathy for my colleagues in the profession, and most do a very good job. But they're not going to win sympathy by saying we want a 4-day week. No, they're going to win sympathy by saying, why don't we do a bit extra? Yeah. Why don't we help these kids after school? And look, they do deserve a good pay rise for that. But we need to support the profession. But in return, the profession needs to support the kids. It's not rocket science to work there, is it? We need a profession which is dedicated, not one which is switched off. Looking at the doctors' dispute, do no harm was the old idea of a doctor. Do no harm. They're doing harm now. And these teachers, by taking an extra day off, are doing harm to the kids.
I want to keep you there, and I want to bring in somebody else, because there's another story doing the rounds this morning, Chris. Majority of schools are taking steps to be LGBT plus inclusive, says a poll. Of course, this is one of those discussions where people get very irate and have an opinion, because many parents have big concerns over what is being taught to their kids, and I will include myself in that. We've got Kate Barker, CEO of LGB Alliance. Good morning, Kate. I'm going to put you on one side of the screen and Chris on the other, and hopefully me in the middle. It's all working. Well done, Lukey.
Morning.
Morning, Kate. What do you make of this? Majority of schools taking steps to be LGBT plus, but parents have big concerns as to what their kids are being taught.
Well, I'm not surprised they have big concerns. I think the idea that a child is LGBT plus is disturbing in the first instance, because if you kind of disaggregate that acronym, are you really saying that in a primary school, like a 5-year-old is a lesbian, or a 6-year-old is bisexual, or anybody is non-binary? I'm personally really suspicious of any adults that try to impose sexual identities or imply that a child is a sexual being. To me, that's a real red flag. I have to say as well, it kind of reminds me of the paedophile information exchange and how they used to operate in the 70s and the 80s, because what they did, if you remember, they wanted to reduce the age of consent to 4, and they framed their campaigns around the idea of the rights of the child. So they'd say, well, look, some children want and enjoy sex with adult men, and it's kind, and it's, you know, we need to listen to children and what they tell us about that. Wow. And it actually gained a lot of ground. You know, it's made its way into the establishment, and people nodded along and thought that was a good idea. And I really fear that this is what's happening now, that there is a sense that, you know, this is just the zeitgeist, and it would be unkind to push back on it, and it's just progress and it's the way things are. But actually, you know, looping back to what you were saying before, teachers have got enough to do to get through the curriculum and focus on what really matters without being expected to be evangelical
box ticking, I call it, box ticking.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's really, parents are absolutely right to be concerned, and we know as well that lots of teachers are concerned about it too, but feel compelled in some way to go along with this, or to reveal themselves to be bigoted or somehow not progressive. You know, it's really, really worrying. And the organisation, I think, that put this poll together was called, I think they're called Just Like Us. And one of their patrons, do you remember Dr. Ronks, who was in the news recently? Now, Dr. Ronks, I've written it down actually, is a black, queer, transmasculine, non-binary doctor, just so that we're clear.
I don't know what that means.
And they came up with this brilliant idea of going into schools, primary schools, and giving kids a bright yellow badge with "Safe with Me" written on it. And the idea was that when they were out and about, if an adult male transvestite saw a child wearing one of those badges, they could ask that child to accompany them to the toilets, because that's what, you know, a middle-aged plumber in fishnets needs to be safe. Going into a toilet is a six-year-old in a badge. And all this sort of
my God.
Focus on children and their sexualities and their identities is disturbing in the extreme. And in this country, we have, you know, an age of consent which is 16. Now, clearly, children, teenagers start thinking about sexuality and about sex and their identities before then. But the age of consent is a mechanism, it's a safeguarding mechanism, and it says below that age, you might be vulnerable. You might not understand what consent means. You might not understand what boundaries mean. And I feel that going into schools with messages about identity and asking children to choose their identity is kind of a breach of that established safeguarding mechanism.
And would it be fair, don't take this the wrong way, because we've spoken before and I'm a massive fan of you. Chris, I think Kate speaks more sense on this than anybody I've ever spoken to, and I think people would be a little bit surprised. And you know what I mean by that, Kate, because they'd think that you'd come on as the CEO of LGB Alliance and say this is right. She's talking about something I've gone on about for ages. There is an age of consent. We are over-sexualising our kids. Let's get back to the basics. Let's get back to the practicality of education. Yes, we should teach our children when it happens, and parents and teachers. But what are we asking teachers to do? This inclusivity, it's just madness. A badge to allow a male transvestite to take a child to the toilet. Are you joking? My wife's worried, right, that tomorrow my son's going to see the Stick Man in Southampton and he's going to go in a minibus for 7 miles, and she's terrified that he might be in a crash, for God's sake. Can we get back to the reality of being a parent?
Yeah, well, at least as a parent, you do have the right to look at the material being used for teaching relationships education. But, you know, it's a sad situation where adults are unburdening their problems, their anxieties onto the shoulders of children. You know, yes, we should teach in secondary school. Of course, we should teach about homosexuality, and do it in a positive way. But also, really, we need to know a little bit more than that. There's a requirement to teach balance. So, in a quarter of the world, homosexuality, for example, is illegal. It's criminalised. We went to the World Cup recently to a country where it carries the death penalty. 80% of countries don't allow same-sex marriage. Now, children need to understand that there's another world out there which sees things differently, and they need to understand, no, the whole of Africa isn't bad because much of it criminalises homosexuality. They need to understand why they do that. And we don't teach the full picture, we teach partial pictures. And look, it's a real problem, and I think we're overburdening young children in particular. They deserve a childhood. They're not interested in these issues particularly. They might be a polar bear one day, a princess the next, a fairy the next. It doesn't matter to them. When I was the head teacher, Jeremy, I taught them one thing. I said, you treat other people as you wish to be treated. That's what you need, and that's all you need. That's all you need, and that's it. I mean, a bit of common sense there, but we're obsessed by this. But if we are going to be obsessed by it, teach both sides of the case. Okay, why is it in Uganda or Qatar or Saudi Arabia they criminalise homosexuality? We're going to the World Cup in Saudi in a few years' time. The death penalty for homosexuality. Why was that? Is that because all the Saudis are bad? What's going on? Kids need to know that too.
I really agree, and Kate, I guess you'd agree. It's all well and good to teach, and I think it's important. All sides of any coin. There's a discussion to be made about age, but it's like so much it seems nowadays. The risk of, I can't find the right words, I've been up since 2, I need to become a teacher, is that we tend to be so obsessed now with box ticking, with being seen to do the right thing, that we're over-exaggerating and missing perhaps basics. I can see balance, but balance is important. It's not happening, is it? I mean,
I think it's about fact. It's about facts, and actually the latest schools guidance was pretty good on that. And they said the balance should be around facts. So, for example, it is a fact that some people are homosexuals, some people are bisexual, but the majority of the world is heterosexual. However, it's a contested belief that children are born in the wrong body and are assigned a sex at birth. You know, and what we're having at the moment is those things, because you've got the aggregation of LGBTQ, you're linking together facts, which is facts about homosexuality, with a minority extreme contested belief, which is that people can change sex. And I think that's where the confusion lies. And if the way to tell the difference, in my view, is that no child was ever harmed by being told a fact. You know,
what a great, I have to finish it there, but what an absolutely great line. If more teachers were like you two, the world would be a much better place. We really appreciate it. Kate Barker, thank you very much indeed, CEO of LGB Alliance, and Chris McGovern, the legend that is Chris McGovern. Thank you both very much indeed. What is it, 10 to 9? What's happened to today? It's 9:15, I can't know. Let's go to Glasgow, it's brave. Donald, good morning. You're on Talk Breakfast. How are you?
Hi, Jeremy. Good morning.
Good morning.
I've got to say, I do appreciate a lot of your opinions. Sometimes you put a great slant on things, and but my wife is a school teacher, and I think they're really getting a hard time here. I mean, some of the things that have came out, like 17 weeks holiday.
Is that a fact?
Well, my wife certainly doesn't. I don't know what it's like in England. She certainly doesn't get 17 weeks holiday. I don't think it'll ever go down to a 4-day week either, because the parents would need somebody to look after the kids, working people. So I think that's a major problem. But my wife works 5 minutes along the road, and school's from 9 till 3, as you quite rightly say. But she leaves here at 8 in the morning to get things ready. She leaves the school at 5 at night, getting things prepared for the next day. I'm always complaining to her because she comes home after dinner, Monday to Thursday.
Doesn't cook you dinner? What's going on, mate? You've got to put your foot down. What's going on?
Yeah, I get my dinner. I'm talking about after dinner.
Oh,
yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
But most of the time she's working from 6:30 till about 9 or 10 at night at the dining table, doing work on her PC, getting things ready. And so there is that. There's a totally misconception. I get what a lot of people are saying. They're up and the guy was sleeping in his truck and so on. That's the backbone of Britain. We all take our hat off to those guys as well. But yeah, I think the other thing as well is my wife actually, at the start of term, she goes out and buys all the rubbers, pencils, jotters and everything. I'm saying, why are you buying it? She says, because the council won't do it and it just makes my job a lot easier. None of the politicians actually realise all those things. I don't think any of the general public realise these things. But also, some of the things she's got to deal with, she's a primary school teacher, and some of the things she's got to deal with, the kids that come to school that are young, some of them aren't even nappy trained.
Yeah.
And somebody else mentioned the discipline problem with kids. Sometimes she comes home and she's upset, and I've got, she wants me to listen to her, and sometimes I've got to tell her to stop, because it's just, man, some of the things that she says is just hard to listen to.
Completely agree. It's good to get both sides of the coin, Donald. Thank you in Glasgow, 30 minutes to 10. Donald providing what I believe is one of the greatest lines ever for all teachers. It's a warning today, which is it's much safer for you if you buy your own rubbers. Back in a jiffy.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, 10 to 10 o'clock. 10 to 10 o'clock? What are we talking about? Julia Hartley-Brewer here from 10. Very quickly, a couple of voice notes. We had a bit of fun earlier and said Starmer and Reeves hanging on by it for dear life, frankly. I think they're both toast. However, I just pointed out, when you have to, for Christmas, buy a present for somebody you don't really like. So we've been asking for suggestions all morning. Couple here, your present suggestions for Starmer and Reeves. Hello?
Morning, Jez. What would I buy Rachel Reeves for Christmas? A new page for her CV, because she's going to need it.
Morning, Jez. Jack from Yorkshire here. On presents for Starmer and Reeves, I think Santa should wait until he's finished and just give him the sack.
Brilliant. One story that I want to... I can't even... Honestly, we've gone from condoms to the sack. I just want to jump in very quickly and do this story before we finish. BP should receive a massive award this morning. They've shelved plans, hurrah, to build a major hydrogen project in Teesside in a fresh blow to Millipede's net zero plans. The oil giant withdrew its request to the government on Monday to build the project after it clashed with separate plans backed by Dreary Starmer to construct the largest data centre in Europe. And, this is brilliant, the dirtiest wood-burning stoves could no longer be sold under government plans to meet tougher air pollution targets. Very quickly, Harry Wilkinson, we love him, head of policy at the Global Warming Policy Foundation, whatever that hell means. I think Miliband's the most dangerous man in England. I've seen hide nor hair of him since the budget, which means he's probably plotting. What's your take on this quickly, Harry?
Well, it's no surprise to us who have followed the hydrogen story specifically. This is a technology which is way, way uncompetitive with natural gas for heat. It's not likely to be used to replace the gas network. So it's no surprise that BP is abandoning this investment. Ed Miliband has just got to get it into his head. He can't plan the economy from Whitehall. He has to go with the grain of what people are choosing to use, what people want to use. Only when he does that can he actually get energy prices down for ordinary people. Instead, he wants to pick winners like these hydrogen technologies that aren't competitive in practice. So here's another piece of a certain plan that's been ditched, and I'm sure there will be many more. You know, when it comes to the wood-burning stoves, it's sad that the government also seems it can tell people what to do in their homes. A basic thing like lighting a fire could become so much more difficult. And this is at a time when air quality has rarely been better in the last 300 years in the UK. We need a more localized approach to this rather than setting rules for the whole country. You may have a house that's in the middle of the countryside, way far away from other homes, and yet you can't do something simple, honest, heating your homes with wood. Everyone should be able to enjoy that pleasure.
Is it just me, or do these politicians, certainly Ed Miliband, the Green zealot that he is, does he have any understanding generally of what most people think, which is, in basic layperson's terms, we're skint. We can't afford £800 billion to chase an ideological dream that the rest of the world doesn't give a damn about, to achieve something that, when you get there, what the hell happens anyway? And in the meantime, they talked, didn't they, repeatedly about Tory lies, Tory lies. Our energy bills have gone up. It doesn't work. It's not going to wash with the British public. Seriously, man, just listen, read the room. But these politicians don't read the room, do they, Harry?
No, I think he should spend some time with some shivering pensioners this winter, because that's the reality of what his high energy prices mean. We've heard from the big six energy companies, we've heard from Martin Lewis, they all agree that it's policy costs that are pushing up bills, not the price of gas. He needs to accept this basic fact and experience what this means for ordinary people shivering in their homes. That's the reality of his approach, and we've got to see urgent action on getting people's
Do you know what worries me? Because net zero to me is, I'm with Richard Tice, net stupid zero. I haven't seen hide nor hair of Millipede since the budget, because if there was an election tomorrow amongst Labour members, he would storm the castle and be the United Kingdom's next Prime Minister. God help us all. I'm going to move to outer Mongolia. Harry, you're a star, man. I know it was only quick. Harry Wilkinson, Head of Policy at the Global Warming Policy Foundation, pouring water on the government's net zero targets, quite rightly. Goodness me, look at the time, Mark. Push the button.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, just to mop it up, the thing that's got you most today, Starmer Reeves, yes, Lammy, yes, doctors, yes, but the teachers. My daughter says, Don, in-law is a teacher. She's got the life of bloody Riley, not just 25% of the year holiday entitlement, but a further 21 days sick allowance, which she takes every day and is currently in Greece on a week's sickie. I've told her I would not want to teach my kid. She's a despicable attitude, but proves what teachers really are. There's a lot of fathers-in-law that don't like their daughters-in-law. Penny was the voice note of the day on Teachers. Go.
They just don't quite get it, do they? They don't get it. Do they understand that they get, I don't even know how many weeks off during the year? They get like half the year off. Or at least that's what it feels like to everyone else in the country, and yet they're complaining about burnout. I've had one holiday this year. One holiday. One, and it was 1 week long. Not 8 or 9 weeks that they get. I think it's disgusting. They should not have a 4-day week, and how dare they even think about asking it alongside the doctors wanting more money? I think all these junior doctors, I think they should all personally be arrested and put in jail for endangering the country. That's my thought on it.
Julia, Penny's at it.
I mean, to be fair, teachers don't get enough holiday, in my view, because obviously I think you should be on holiday 6 months of the year. No,
not everybody's like you, are they?
State schools, you get 30 weeks holiday. They always go, oh, no, we're preparing lessons all the time.
Yeah,
inset days. I'm sorry, absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. It is quite absurd. If you want, I'm sorry, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a teacher, you want to do those jobs, it's going to be a 5-day-week job.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's how it works. Otherwise, don't do it.
This is course from two ageing broadcasters who only do 4 days a week. Can I quickly say, very quickly, to all the people that texted we didn't read out, millions today, thank you. We're back tomorrow. What you got? Well, David Lammy, the biggest liar in the land.
Well, indeed. We've got Robert Jenrick on in just a couple of moments' time. I was going to take him on. We're going to talk about how was Rachel Reeves hanging on, jury trials. We need to keep jury trials. Look, at some point...
Have you seen the clip from 2020? When he went, we should keep them,
exactly.
we should keep them.
I mean, nothing's changed, nothing's changed. Doctor strike, you name it, we're talking about it.
She is here. Do you like Queen of Westminster?